Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Live After Discussing a Murderer, episode 32. We just finished. We're really chugging along on the series. We're going to be in episode 8 soon. I think the next episode that we do, guys out there, little spoiler alert, we're gonna finish episode 7 in the next podcast. And so we're moving into the last 3. That means we might have, three, somewhere between probably around 10 episodes left of discussing a murderer. But we will most likely continue to do these lives every 2 weeks, and keep this going because I'm really enjoying this little kind of band of this little crew we got here ourselves, in these lives that we've been doing every 2 weeks, and having a really good, enjoyable time for me. As long as the internet works, I'm having a good time. So with that said, why don't we go around and introduce and just say hello to everybody? And if you have anything to add it. Otherwise, we'll just welcome Calf first. Hey, Calf, how you doing?
Hello, everyone. Yeah, I'm doing really good. And just looking forward to the live. Thanks for everyone for coming and listening. And yeah, definitely ask questions, throw some questions out there today for us to try and discuss, answer, whatever. Not that I've got all the answers, but
Well, who does? No one
yeah.
claims to have all the answers, right? So, well, that's awesome, Calf. It's great to have you back as always. We love your input on the issues. So, thanks for joining us again.
Thank you.
And Brian, welcome back. How are you doing? Feeling like you have some conversation in you? Have some energy?
I have a little conversation. Yeah, no, I'm doing good. I'm doing good for a Tuesday. And then
Awesome. Yeah, Tuesday here, but it's actually Wednesday for Kel and Calf. So hey,
I know.
Kel,
Actually,
how
I'd
you
like to
doing?
throw that out there.
Oh, you were going to throw that. So, you have anything else, Brian?
No, not at this time. I do not.
Okay. Well, I'm going to call on you later, though. Kelly, how you doing? Happy
I'm
Wednesday.
doing well. Happy Wednesday or Tuesday for everyone over in the other side of the world. Yeah, it's morning, the sun is shining, and I'm ready to start yapping.
Absolutely. It just started raining here, so we're in the opposite from you. And we got a severe weather storm coming, supposed to hit tonight. Luckily, though, this island is the one island that might be spared by the storm. So, hopefully that holds. And last but not least, to welcome to the panel, welcome back, Jack. How you doing, buddy?
Doing good, and Kel, on you because yesterday, let's see. Of course, we're a day behind you. So Saturday it was like 70 degrees here, which is, I mean, I know Celsius. It was warm. It's a nice warm day. Yesterday morning, it's down to below freezing and snow, and then it got a little above freezing yesterday, and then today I think it was, I don't know, it's a little warmer, but not much.
I think we sent that
So
to
anyway,
you, Jack.
thanks a lot,
been the
pal.
same here. You bet. It's been
Thanks.
the same here. Just we're like a day ahead of you, though.
Yeah, thanks, buddy. You
Yeah.
got anything else you're gonna send me? Please let me know, kid. Hey, what the hell, man? What can I say? It's Michigan. It's Michigan, so whatever,
Right.
Anyway, so yeah, glad to be back, and we'll do have some conversation. I know we were talking a little bit there earlier. There's been a lot of various subjects that have come up, and I know that my buddy Brian has been on Reddit and saw a lot of the conversations on, especially in the MAM sub. There's been some interesting things going on. New people coming along that don't really know. They seem to want to know the case, but they don't. So anyway, yeah, a lot of good stuff. Ready to go.
Yeah, I think that's just kind of the cycle of it for sure. Yeah, as we wait to hear any news from the court, that's kind of where we're at. We finding different conversations, different angles to talk about. We use making a murder in the podcast as a springboard for discussion. So we're always open to new kind of angles and stuff. And the truth is, there's always something working on the back burner. I think a lot of researchers always have multiple things going at once, working this angle on this thing for a little bit until you can't anymore, and try to work that, and then you get a break on something that you were working early. So I do want to ensure people that people are working in the background, and people have not stopped trying to find a solution to help move this case along. So cheers to all those people who are working in the background. They are very quiet. So I guess before we really get moving, anybody have anything just important that they want to mention, or anything that's on the top of their head that they just want to throw out there just before we kind of open it up for a topic? Anybody have anything that's kind of stuck in their craw?
Just an observation, I guess, more than really stuck in my craw, but an observation going back through, as I've been doing on the open mic the last several weeks, probably 6 weeks now. I'm going back through the calls, but mainly, not all of them, but mainly the calls that we got from MTSO in 2022. And these are the calls that were never released before. And the content's really interesting, a lot of them. But one thing that I caught really, I had caught it before, but it didn't really stick with me like it did this time. Going along and listening to these calls, you get up to, all the way through to November 8th, and they're taking tips, and I'll get it, take your information, get an investigator to call you, or they'll connect them to their voicemail or whatever. They did from time to time transfer it over to Calumet County, but by and large, they seem to, at Manitowoc, they seem to take the information and then whatever. Then, on crossing the boundary to November 9th, boom, we're not handling that investigation. That goes to Calumet County. I mean, like, pretty much every call that I've gotten through on the 9th. It's night and day. It was a noticeable difference. So, and just as a side note, anyone that's read the MTSO summary report, there was not a single report from Manitowoc after November 8th, 2005, up until, of course, later on in March, but nothing for the 9th, 10th, 11th, or 12th from Manitowoc. I just found it interesting.
Well, there's a lot of little things like that. That's a really cool one. I've never. Thanks for bringing that to our attention. I got to stew on that one and let that one kind of.
Well, clearly
marinate
something
a little
happened.
bit.
Clearly something happened that they said, you know what? Nothing, guys, nothing. So, the last thing basically that was found that on the 8th was the fucking key. Pardon my language, pardon my French. And I can't, Kratz knew that they had been in that trailer a million times, and then all of a sudden they're somebody coughed up a key out of their left ear, and he's probably thinking to himself, "What the hell? Where the hell did this thing come from?" Because let's be honest, that trailer is the size of a shoebox. I mean, I'm not bragging or putting anyone down or whatever. I'm just making an observation here. We've got one room in our house that's almost as big as this trailer. That place was tiny.
Sure was. It sure was. Trailers are not, and like they were saying, one of those guys had to sit on the bed just for them all to fit in there.
That's a single wide. And I think it was Jinx. I think one of the photos that Jinx got, it shows how close that Kacharski was to Lincoln Colburn. He's basically right on top of him. You're thinking the bed's kind of away from where they're at, but it's so tight in there. It's really right there. I'll see if I can find that photo actually, because with this new computer. By the way, I'm not too. You might want to ask everybody if my volume's okay out there, because I'm not monitoring. I've got it on, but I've got the volume turned down.
No, it sounds good to me. Let me know.
Okay.
Yeah, good on my end.
Good. Okay. Well, I'm trying to I put a new hard drive in, a new solid state drive. I'm trying to organize all the photos under one umbrella. So I don't know if I've got those photos on here yet or not. But there was a photo that I think Kucharski took. I'm almost positive, and it's got Lincoln Coburn, or it shows in front of him. Let's put it that way. I can't remember exactly who all in it. So I'll see if I can find that photo too, just to show you how close they really were. Anyway,
No, that's interesting because I've been kind of noticed. I guess I've not noticed. Isn't there a call? I don't know if you remember it, but I swear I remember it, and I honestly couldn't tell you where to find it. But that Herman sells. I thought it was on the 6th or 7th already, where they said transfer any and all tips to Calumet County.
they did. Yes, that's true. But it just seemed to. It just depended on who was the shift commander and who was answering the phone.
Right. And then Link
Until-
testified that he was ordered not to write reports. And it was the first time he'd ever been ordered not to write reports in 25 years of doing law enforcement. 'Cause I
Yeah, see,
think it was
that's
Butte
just
that called it.
crazy. That just
Well, they don't
this is
want
cra-
differing opinions. They don't want Manitowoc to write one report and Calumet to write another. I mean, when I read that from Link,
You definitely don't want to mix up there, right? I get what you're saying. I'm still here.
Yeah, you're still here. I think maybe Brian cut out for a second there, so I didn't hear the end of his comments. But when he does come back, we will let him finish
I
up
don't know.
those
It's
comments.
kind of dropped off.
okay, how
I
about
thought
now?
that maybe I guess.
Yes.
There you go.
Oh gosh, see, I'm on my phone too, Jeff. So I don't know what
It's-
happened either. But
Thanks to everybody thanks everybody out there for like sticking with us through our technological problems. I'm getting this new updated thing that everybody's had for 10, 15 years now called fiber optic cable. Getting it in a couple weeks should stabilize the lives for us a little bit. But for right now, we're just kind of doing our best to patch this along. So appreciate everybody sticking with us. Did you want to finish up those comments that you had, Brian?
yeah, because it was a quick one anyways. I mean, I know I mentioned it earlier in Discord or whatever, but the with the key, going back over the story doesn't make any sense, and they're really they'd already, like Jax was just saying, they've been in that trailer numerous times, so they can come up with whatever story they want as far as why they didn't fully search the bedroom or whatever the first time. But when they're looking, I mean, Coburn, they're finding knives in the desk, keys, and all kinds of stuff that potentially could be evidence, but they're just discarding it left and right like it's nothing. And I kind of wonder if they didn't find that key earlier somewhere else and they just didn't document it, and then all of a sudden it's like, hey, you guys got to find this key and it's got to be in Steven's trailer. I mean, I kind of think the key was found in the RAV. That kind of makes the most sense.
And what are you trying to do to me? Get me started with the key there, Brian? Oh my god.
Well, no, it's just the way, no, it's like Jax was just saying though. I mean, Kucharski and Link and Coburn, they're all in this tiny room, really. They're sitting on the bed, they're just kind of going through stuff, and nothing really seems, and all of a sudden, they're about to leave, and it's like, and Coburn decides to shake a bookcase and nothing moves on it, but the key falls out, and it's like, wait a minute, what is that? Oh my god, it's a Toyota key. But there was another key found, a foreign car key found, that they bugged Jody about and everything. I mean, they found that early. I think there's a picture of it, so I don't think it's a Toyota key, but I mean, they're trying to figure. I assume it was like the Suzuki key or something like that. And they're just trying to figure out where it went to. But it makes me think that maybe they found that Toyota key, on the 5th or 6th or 7th, and they just didn't document it. And so if they don't document where they found it or how they found it, then that's pretty easy for Buting or somebody to just be like, how do we know you found it here? It's probably just in a car when at the crime lab or wherever. I don't know. To me, it's just the whole story is fishy. So if that makes sense, I just kind of wonder if
It does make
if they
sense
just
because
kind of found it somewhere and didn't realize what it was, and then all of a sudden somebody's like, "Hey, you dumbasses, you got to find this. You got to take this back and put it somewhere else."
yeah, because we can't say where we found it. Actually, but it would probably look really good if you found it in his trailer. So, kind of somewhere on
Right. Yeah.
You know,
Exactly.
back in
reports that both of those keys are found in or near that end table. Like that's how it comes in. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
there's something fishy. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Where was the other key found? It was found in similar fashion, wasn't it?
It
The
was
other
either
foreign
next
key.
to the end table or in the end table. Like
Yeah.
I can't remember the words specifically, but yeah, they're both kind of found in generally the same area.
Yeah, and definitely a foreign car key, but they don't know what kind of a foreign car, and I don't know.
Well,
They're
I've
asking
never
Jody
really
about
seen
it.
that picture. I've never seen, Jack, do you remember seeing a picture of a foreign car key?
I didn't
Yep,
see it
we've
for the
got it.
longest time, but yeah,
Yeah, we've got
eventually
it.
I think it came up.
I think we've actually already looked at it.
Oh, well,
And that-
hey, I just
it's
forgot.
in
I
this-
was asleep for that part.
It's in this batch of this 2,000 plus photos. So
Well, what were we? Unless you guys had anything to add to that kind of line of conversation, I kind of was interested in getting back to Cuss Road because we were talking about that in the premiere, and it's there's never a bad time to talk about Cuss Road, is there? There's so much to do, so many different theories as to what it was, what was going on over there, and does anybody have anything to add kind of to where we were leaving off in the premiere, or anything to kind of any comments to be made about Cuss just from that or in general?
I don't really remember where it left off.
Me either, but like it has been a big topic lately. I don't know about Cuss Road. It really does my head in. For the longest time I thought, yeah, there was nothing there, and then my mind changed and I thought, yeah, maybe there was something there, but what? I'm still just mind boggled about it. I think that if any of her bones were found there, and they maybe collected them beforehand and tried to get them over into Stephen's Pit, it's not really doable because of the bones fragments that they did find were, one from each part of the skeleton. So unless they're a bone expert, they're not going to know what they're looking at. So that's just not doable.
So much weird, so many weird circumstances, as I mentioned in the premiere, having Bushman there, but it doesn't necessarily mean he found anything. Maybe they were hoping he would, but he didn't. I come back to this kind of rule. I don't know if it's a rule of thumb, but it's like everything looks suspicious, but everything can't be suspicious at every direction, and everybody's not guilty, right? So you really gotta, and I like how there's different thoughts about what Cuss Road could be. Was it a mistake? Did they really not find anything and they were a little embarrassed about it? They look at guys, we found this thing, it's this burlap bag and it's got to be remains, it's got to be, and then they look at it and they go, it's nothing.
Well, the dogs did hit on there. They did alert.
Fair
You can't take that away, I guess. But they alerted on a shovel. Then they didn't alert on the shovel, so that they're sort of suspicious. The dogs do a lot of high head checks, and that means that they do smell what they're supposed to be smelling in the area, but they can also smell up to some dogs 2 miles, some dogs 20 miles away. So the high head checks would be they are sensing something in the air, but not there, not at Cuss, further away, which would probably be the Mishicot gravel or,
Can you explain that? Can you run through that again, please? I'm sorry, Kath. Can you run through that again? Because I think it's a really good point. What is a head check? What did you say?
So dogs do a high head check. So they put their heads up and they do smelling in the air to say they do smell something, but it's not where they are. So they're smelling off into the distance. So, they're probably smelling
up to like how far?
Some dogs up to 2 miles, some dogs up to 20. So it varies depending on the dog, I suppose, and things like that. So, it could be, they could be smelling something from the Mishicot gravel where bones were found. they could be smelling the RAV had been parked maybe on Radant's property, like law enforcement led Josh to believe that, well, they told him, they said that they believed the RAV had been parked on his property for a period of time. So they could have been smelling that. But yeah, so yeah, they did a lot of high head check, the dogs. So they were smelling something in the air, but not quite alerting because it was further away. That's what that
I
means.
just want to squeeze something in, if I may, because it kind of bounces off what Kath just said. So she said that I'm not sure if this is the right timing to kind of incorporate it in, but how the RAV could have been stored there for a while, and that's why they were doing high head checks, because they were scenting an area where her belongings could have been at one time or the other, being the RAV. And then we have obviously Josh Radant, who said that the officers told him that they believed that was the way that they used, or they believed that the RAV was returned after the murder, that someone had brought it in through the deer camp, through Cuss, and then obviously back onto Avery Salvage Yard. And he ended up putting that, I think, in the affidavit to Kathleen Zellner, and kind of exposed that a bit later on when he was interviewed with her team. But funny enough, I went back and I've read the Court of Opinion, I swear to God, like 10 times. And I went back the other day because I was looking at something else actually, but I went to the next paragraph and I found this paragraph that, like I said, I've read it a million times, but I've always overlooked it until now. And when I saw it, I was like, what? So the Courts of Appeal cheekily inserted a narrative of their own in terms of Cuss Road and the deer camp. And that is in the fact that they, in one of their points, in point, I think it was 40, I've got to grab it up so I get it exactly right.
Do you have it in front of you? Can you share it? Can we somehow?
I do, and I just sent it to you.
Okay. Okay.
So
okay, let me see how
it's
I can
about
share it.
Yeah, I'll just quickly get, like, while you're trying to share it, I'll just read it. I'm just going to paraphrase it so I don't take too long, but you guys will be able to read it in its full content here, or its context. So it's like, finally, Avery agrees the investigators knew but didn't disclose that to him, that Hallbuck's RAV4 was driven into the property of Avery's next to the neighbours. It is difficult to follow this argument, but it is based on an affidavit from the neighbour who does not state that the RAV4 was on his property, but rather attests to a conversation with law enforcement agents in which they stated their belief as to how the vehicle was driven onto the Avery property. Now, this is the interesting bit. Presumably after Teresa's death, but the agents could have been referring to Teresa's driving route on the day of her death. Has anyone ever alleged in any documentation that we've ever seen that Teresa came through Cuss Road?
Never.
And
No.
So where the hell does the Courts of Opinion have found this to insert as their possibility? They've actually used that as an excuse to be like, well, she could have come that way. That could be why there's an idea that the RAV came through that way. But where the hell have we ever seen that
Never.
is ever been a narrative from anyone?
No.
Yeah, that's really weird.
Yeah. Never seen that anywhere.
So didn't they say that the dogs had tracked what they believe, law enforcement, that the RAV went across the cornfield and then over to Cuss from there?
Well, the dogs did go through the cornfield. Well,
Mhm.
Brutus did track that way. I'm not
Yeah.
sure about Loof. I'm not sure if, I guess Loof tracked that way as well, but
Yeah. The thing about the dogs is they had quite a few dogs there, but they called Brutus out specially to be the first dog to go out onto the salvage yard. cadaver. So I don't get why they didn't send them all out. And straight away they take Brutus to the crusher, then straight to the RAV. I just find that all really a little bit interesting. I don't know. That they didn't really search the houses first. They went straight to the crusher, then straight to the RAV, then from the RAV to the berm.
Well, they
and then,
they had Brutus check the crushed cars
yeah.
and found nothing.
So, but being a cadaver dog, and the other dogs I think were scent dogs and maybe one other cadaver, but he was sent originally on his own. Did they already know that she had passed away by sending a cadaver dog first? How would they know that?
I don't know. I don't know. As far as the order of how the dogs got there, I'm not really sure if because Brutus belonged to Sarah Fausk, and she wasn't part of Great Lakes Search and Rescue. She was her own. She was an officer from Kewanee, or how you would say that county. How you say that county, Jeff? Is it Kewanee?
Kewanee.
Kewanee.
Yeah. So she wasn't part of Great Lakes Search and Rescue. She was a separate dog and handler.
Mm.
So I'm not exactly sure how that worked out the way it did.
Well, they had more than one dog there. They had
Canine
Trace, Riesling, Cody. You know, they had all of them start doing a grid pattern and checking all the cars.
That's right.
I'm not sure why they're checking the cars. I suppose they have to, but I don't know. Why didn't they just start checking the houses first? And I know I find the pattern of what they did, and then also too just taking Brutus straight to the crusher, then straight to the RAV. I don't know.
I mean, they found the license plates in the cars eventually, but nothing else, I don't think.
Yeah, the dogs didn't pick up on the license
Well, that's
plates.
something else we found out.
They were expected to.
That was something else that we found out. I'm sure I'd read it, and just another one of these things that it just didn't register. A report from Julie Kramer. She's talking about their over in that Michaels, or whatever, however you say it, that other quarry, and she starts talking about this other dog handling unit that's there called Midwest K9, which I'm sure I'd read it and it didn't register, but we don't have any reports from them. Plus, there were other civilians out there with their dogs. Nothing from them. I mean, I don't, maybe there was nothing to report, but I don't know.
Or is it just a case of we're going to take the reports that suit our narrative?
Well, right. I would prefer to have a report that says, such and such dogs with such and such organization found nothing. List their dogs, their handlers. Boom, they didn't find anything. They searched over here, didn't find jack shit. Instead of just having nothing at all. That intimates that they weren't there. And that's not really a complete look at really what happened. I mean, there was a woman called in early morning of the 9th at Manitowoc, and she had a horse and a dog, and she said, I'm willing to bring both and come help, search, larger areas, help the guys run down whatever. So that I'm sure they got more calls than that as well. So
the dogs have always been interesting in terms of like scent versus cadaver. Just a fun fact for you is which anyone can do this. It's literally an easy Google search. I think there's always been, again, this isn't exactly where you guys were just going in terms of searching, but there's always been these questions that I always see, like, could the animal bones or could the blood of the deer or certain aspects hide Teresa's scent? And the answer, and like I said, it's no. Dogs, these these particular dogs are trained to know the difference between animal versus human, and that's bones versus blood versus decomposition versus tissue. We all we have different toxins and different kind of we produce different kind of elements when we produce, or the cells and toxins that come out. So the dogs are actually trained to know the absolute difference. So I just wanted to put that out there as well. And the reason why I kind of want to link that back in is what I've always struggled with the dogs is, even if the dog was taken straight to the crushers and just sent, to try to smell around there to see what they picked up, their trained professionalism as, a handler, what the handlers have done for them, and their instinct should have picked up on those bones in the pit almost immediately. You would think, I would honestly believe, if they were such a highly trained, canines in their field, that they wouldn't have given a shit about the presence of bear, because that bear would have become oblivious to their duty and their job, and that is to trace and track something that would have been quite apparent to them, that their scent was onto something. And it's not just a little speck, it was several bones that would have given that alert. They should have barked, skipped, ran. Hell, they should have even flown over to that pit, wanting that just to get on it because there was something in it, but nothing.
Wait, why aren't the dogs going crazy? Why aren't they going ape shit on an area?
Yes, that's right. And then at the beginning, they blamed Bear being aggressive, so they couldn't approach Stephen's pit. But having said that, like you said, Cal, if Bones had been in there at that stage, that dog would be forcefully trying to alert to that pit.
It wouldn't be just that. It would also be exactly that, but it would also be the pattern of all the dogs. It wouldn't be just one dog trying to get in there. You would see the pattern of every scent dog or cadaver dog that was trained and was put on that area to kind of locate something, would have just all beelined for it. And with that happening, you would expect them to then move a lot quicker to remove Bear, because you'd be like, hang on a minute, every single dog here has alerted to this area. There's something here. We need to get this dog gone right now. But they don't. And I'm like, why?
In any other normal case, the first thing they would have done is called the ranger or a vet in to remove Bear.
Well, yeah, and there's 8 or 10 handlers in and around the property anyway that could have easily taken care of Bear.
Yep. I agree. So really, that was just an excuse. Bear was just an excuse.
I mean, it sounds
for sure. Everything was an excuse.
I'm with you. I'm in your car, man.
I mean, they had to stall. You're right, Kel. They should have. I've been going. I mean, I enjoy the discussions on Cuss Road, because they're usually actually discussions, and I haven't really discussed it in years, probably since going over the calls with Millbilly and them years ago with the dispatch calls and stuff. And so it's almost new again, but I forget where I was kind of going with that, but either way, it's they should have hit on. I don't think there was ever bones in that pit. I really don't. The dogs would have hit on them. But that's where I was going. So as I'm going back over some of this Cuss Road stuff and reading all this stuff, and that, so Bushman and his team, he was called, and I was wondering too, Jeff, where the 3 a.m. came from, because I remember trying to figure out years ago how early in the morning Bushman was actually called, and I could never find it. And by who?
Good question.
Because I kind of thought not July. I kind of thought maybe Cuss Road initially years ago that it was found on the 6th, and then they called Bushman in to go, excavate it on the 7th. But then they did a grid search, and they started in the gravel pit. And I'm kind of if you compare the investigation to Cuss Road versus the investigation when they first discovered the RAV, it's kind of similar. They really took it seriously. Then come the 8th, they just kind of rush over Joe Stowe. I see a foot bone or whatever he said, and then they tear up the Stevens Pit, and then by the time Ertl gets there, it's like, oh, it's contaminated. Can't take pictures of it. Let's bring a Bobcat in tomorrow, and or we call Pevito, and Pevito comes in, and then it's like, oh, it's raining, so we can't do it until like the 10th. And they just scoop up a bunch of, basically ash and sand and whatever, and throw it in boxes, and then they take it back to Calumet Sheriff's Department, and they sift through it, and they take pictures of Wiegert and others sifting through supposedly the contents of Stevens Pit.
Show that photo. Show that photo there, Jeff, if you can link it up.
And so I kind of was, I'm kind of wondering if Bushman, if a little bit, if Bushman was sent similar to perhaps Pam and the Rav. Obviously, Pam found the Rav in 20 minutes, and I almost wonder if Bushman and his team didn't kind of pass over what they were supposed to be finding. Who knows, though? The other thing I love about Custer, this really is no right or wrong answers, because we really have no idea what happened there.
Jack, where's that picture?
I shared it.
Oh, is it in the?
Yeah, you'll have to link me up.
Yeah, let me see how I know I've done this before. I just got to remember how I did it from the phone.
Yeah, you'll have to link me up, man. Link me up.
I don't know why this is taking a while. It's going to take me a second to find the settings. So just continue amongst yourselves while I find this.
I was just thinking about, I think originally law enforcement, maybe they didn't expect to find any bones, because, their whole theory was she never left the property. And after all, 60% of her remains are missing. So maybe they didn't expect to ever find her, but then that would mean someone knew she wouldn't be found, but she was. As minute as the fragments are, they've still got, part of the bone. So I don't know, it's crazy because
they did find bones.
It was all that trouble to completely basically turn poor Teresa to ash, but then left the car. Why wouldn't you just throw petrol in that car and set it alight as well? Like, why leave the vehicle?
Right. Two 5-gallon cans of kerosene and a road flare. You're done. That car's gone.
And then to have those strategic pieces, I just can't get it out of my brain that they've got like one piece of the whole skeleton and managed, and you'd have to be able to have the knowledge to identify those pieces too, to be able to place them in the pit. Like, when did they have time to even do that? And who has the knowledge to be able to do that? Like, if they're finding her remains in piles, like they say, yeah, that would take days to go through those piles and find each piece of the skeleton to put in Stevens Pit. But yeah, it's done on the 8th.
Well, that's why I don't think they were ever there. I think they found.
Sybil's running around. Sybil's
running around.
There's no photos either, is there?
No, Sybil's running around a 2-mile radius, collecting bones. They're finding bones in the quarry, in the gravel pit, and then they take a bunch of. They just scooped out and they took it back to the sheriff's department and sifted through it. But because they documented Sybil's bones and they documented the ones in the gravel pit, they had to say there were some there. Obviously, they can't, and that's why Kratz wanted to spend 20 seconds on him, because he's like, I think they just documented him being in Stevens Pit.
Yes, and wasn't it Ertl that sort of got there and just went, this is too out of control for me to do anything.
Exactly.
Yeah, too contaminated.
This photo here is from the 6th. Was taken by Trooper Austin. There's no crime scene tape.
Oh yeah, that's right. I saw that yesterday.
No excavation,
and it was on the 6th.
Yeah.
No, that's right. There's no
nothing.
And there's no piles of bones here, as reported by these various officers.
And he's not scared of bear either.
No, Absolutely
There's
not.
a hammer. The hammer's there.
And here's another photo. I mean, it's kind of a partial, but there was
Yeah,
no
there's another
piles of
hammer.
bones there. Yeah.
But then, so
Shirley,
there's no bones there. So then somehow they've got these strategic pieces from her skeleton into Eisenberg's office, and she's identified them all as one piece from each part of the skeleton.
Sounds like
well,
a
she's
mad
got
miracle.
she's got a box of bones that are not geotagged. They could be from Mars. They just a box of bones showed up.
Right.
And they've told her they're from Stephen's Pit.
That's right.
Exactly.
And then this other
Oh,
photo.
this is too much.
That's what I'm saying. There's no. It's not like there's nothing here as reported by these various officers.
Of course, yeah, because they didn't take photos. They didn't sift through it like normal forensics do at a crime scene. They just got the bobcat out and went, let's dig a pool.
Well, this is even before the Bobcat.
Yeah, Pevito tried, but not till like the 10th, maybe even the 11th. They called him on the 8th, but then he had to drive down from Madison, and then it was raining, and I don't remember all the excuses they used, but they
Oh,
stalled
there
him.
was one photo,
And he
wasn't
tried
there?
to do a grid search, but I don't know if it even ever happened.
One
Well, if
photo
you,
of someone with gloves on holding one bone. Remember?
that's later on.
Oh, is
And
that?
remember, we went through some photos of the 10th or the 11th where they came back in and dug everything back up.
Yeah,
Remember? Yeah.
yeah.
It's crazy. It's that because we were looking at the dirt, the color of the dirt in that area where they were doing their sifting and how dark it was.
That's the other thing. Why didn't they do soil testing? Was that even a thing back then?
Yeah.
Because
They
then you
didn't
could
do it.
say what bones were found in what type of soil. Because I can tell you now, probably the soil over in Mishicot Gravel, Redance, is different to Stephen's property, and well,
Of course.
you know, that's why they do it, soil testing.
And there was no pyrolysis, as far as we know, found down in the bottom of the pit. It should have been burned in there. You know, dismembered and
Did you guys say
burned. There would have been
soil testing?
pyrolysis. Yeah, soil testing, absolutely.
So it just so happens that I knew about this a while ago, but it just kind of came back to my kind of in front of me on my stove here of my research. And it's an article that talks about some DNA tools that are used now that are so sensitive that they were able to find a DNA profile left by a Neanderthal human 50,000 years ago, because all he did was relieve himself in a cave. And from the sediment that was left from his urine attached to minerals and particles, and they were able to pull a DNA profile 50,000 years later. So,
well, he was
I'm
a
just
Neanderthal, so it was pretty stout, I'm
That's
just
funny.
saying.
That's funny. That's funny. He's stronger, like the DNA's stronger because it's
Sorry.
strong. Yeah, that's funny. But what I'm saying, my point is that we are advancing in DNA technology, right? There's just we're light years ahead of where we were in 2005. There are insane, and it's not necessarily does the technology exist. Is there a will? And is there financing for it? Because this stuff isn't cheap. You know what I mean? That's the problem. And
Right.
I just think like we have to continue to consider new technologies, because new technology can equal new evidence. That's all. I've said my piece. I'll share that article in the chat.
Well, one more thing, and Brian said it a minute ago, and I wanted to comment about this. I was talking to somebody earlier about it. When Sipple calls in at 2:11 p.m. on the 9th, and you could tell he's clearly excited. He's talking to Captain Rush. This is at Calumet County at Queso. He's talking about finding 5-gallon bucketfuls of human bones, and yada yada yada. And he wants 40 to 60 officers. We want to keep it in the law enforcement family. Don't want any, external hands in here. Basically, to come scour the quarry. But, I guess maybe somebody could correct me if I'm wrong, but wouldn't their first call to be for him to call and say, hey, look, you need to get a hold of the coroner and get him over here because we found some human bones over here. Isn't that state law in Wisconsin? I could have swore it was. Right? Am I wrong? They find human remains. Isn't their first call to the coroner, and coroner comes and says, "Okay, get the fuck out of my crime scene. I'll call you if I need you. Get out."
One would think so.
I thought that was state law in Wisconsin.
Those are guidelines only. No, I'm just kidding. The laws are guidelines in Wisconsin. No.
Yeah, guidelines.
The multiple choice. Okay, I got you.
Well, far too often, I think that, that's the problem with it. It's not the laws on the books, it's how they're applied, and are they applied equally? And I think that is one of the issues that we find. The laws is only as good as the people who carry out the law, right? Still carried
That's
out
right.
by humans, still carried out, so
One's in charge.
that's right. That's right.
I just wanted to bring that up because, it's really exciting, and it was a really, it was a big red flag moment for me. That call was. It was a really red flag. One of the biggest ones of all the phone calls that we've got. But it struck me as to, and Captain Russ certainly knew it. There's no way that man did not know that they should have gotten a coroner in there immediately. The coroner comes the next day, but it's too late. Everything's done. It's a done deal. And what does he do? He comes to they deliver him over to the quarry, and somehow miraculously he signs Teresa's death certificate while he's there.
What? Yeah, it's like they were quick to. They just seemed to know that she had passed away and that these bones are hurt. They knew all this very, very quickly, like too quickly.
Somebody seemed to.
Well, I just have real trust issues, I guess. I try not to be biased, but when stuff looks weird, it probably is. It's like my dad used to tell me, "Son, if it sounds like too good of a deal to be true, it probably really is, and you should stay away from it." Okay, Dad.
Yeah.
That's some good advice. That is some good advice. The only advice I give is don't give advice, don't take advice, and get yourself some roadside assistance. I live by those words.
That's pretty good. I was trying to find these other photos, but I can't find it. Damn it. I wanted to show that Kucharski photo inside Steven's bedroom. Son of a bitch. I thought I've probably got it, but when I tell you that I literally have thousands of files, I'm not kidding. Not a boast either. It's really like I've got thousands of files, guys. It's kind of like it's like the forest and trees thing. I know I've got them, but organizing something like this, you almost need someone that's really good at that kind of shit.
It's a hard thing to accomplish. I think that when big data started coming out, that was the realization a lot of people made, that it's not about do you have it, it's about can you find it.
Can you find it? That's right.
So that's a good segue. Can you find it? Can you find where we left off with pictures? Maybe before we move. Oh, you did.
I did.
Does anybody have anything to add? Comments from the chat, or anybody here on the panel that has anything to add before we kind of move into some pictures where we left off?
Someone in the chat should throw a question out there. Just something that they've been wanting to ask or whatever, and we'll see if we can
address it.
Answer it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. If you guys have
just quickly, Dan, if we're going to do that, there was one at the very beginning, and I did say I was going to address it with the panel. I know that there was people that kind of touched base on it with the chat, the viewers and people that were joining, but we had a comment asking, was the ex-boyfriend of Teresa's, and they weren't sure who the names was. And I know that people said, are you referring to Bradley Chex? Because, that was a past love interest versus Ryan Hillegas. Was any of their alibis ever checked out on the day of the 31st?
So Brad's alibi is that he was at home sleeping in those hours between after the text message between him and Teresa. He was up for a little while, went to sleep, had a few missed calls on his phone that Wiegert made a report about. And so he doesn't really have an alibi, Brad Chuck. But yet again, I don't know. So that's his alibi, that he was asleep. And he does work third shift. He did work as a producer in that, like, I think he started work late night. So being asleep at those hours is actually not suspicious. And I think it's important to mention that who's sleeping at these hours and what, but that's actually his normal sleep schedule. So we do have to acknowledge that when we present that evidence.
What about Hillegas? He didn't have an alibi that I recall, but then Kratz tried to give him one years ago when he was answering questions.
He sure
somewhere
did.
around-
He did give
Yeah.
him one.
Yeah, he did. Like he was with a girlfriend or something. Like not just an alibi, but he like made up a
In
person.
in Milwaukee, in Milwaukee. By God.
Which is, almost 100 miles away. So, the other thing I know
it's
about
pretty.
Ryan,
I always kind of found that highly suspicious.
it is. And Ryan,
I mean,
if I remember correctly, is on the phone with his sister for long periods of time that evening. One of the areas of research I checked out was what was everybody doing during these critical hours of Teresa's the end of her life, right? Between 2:30 p.m. and let's say 10 p.m. that night. These are the critical hours of her life, right? Whether she made it to the next day or not, we know that these are still critical hours in her timeline. So what was everybody up to? And that's how I kind of looked through Brad and checked where everyone, Steven's on the phone multiple times with Jody. Ryan is on the phone multiple times with his sister and other people. I don't know why Ken Kratz said he was in Milwaukee. That is very suspicious indeed.
with a girlfriend.
With a girlfriend that he didn't even really have, But Ken Kratz,
Well, that was new too, though. That was new news too when he said he had a girlfriend, because nobody
Ken Kratz
never
lies
heard
for
about it.
free, though. That's the other thing. I think he lies for free. I don't think he doesn't. He's just such a liar that he can lie about anything. He just wants to
that was a big
give
one,
you an
though.
answer. He wants to answer you away and wish it away. Oh no, it couldn't be possible because he has a girlfriend in Milwaukee. Leave it alone, kind of thing. You know what I mean? He doesn't really know. He's just trying to just get everyone to turn back their attention to Stephen Avery. And that's his way. So.
Yep, that's right.
Ryan wasn't her recent boyfriend anyway. Like, if we're going to go by recent boyfriends.
No, but reading the email that she wrote, it was like he was, kind of poking his head up again, checking her out, and I don't remember exactly what all her email said, but as I recall, it was he's taking note of me, or I don't remember.
I think that's right, Jack. That's how I remember it. Like he was giving me that look again.
You've got that damage to the RAV, and I think Kathleen Zellner or someone saw, like a little bit of red paint maybe embedded into the dent in the car, and Ryan had a red Corolla at the time, but I also had a look up Bradley's records, and he also owned 2 red vehicles in 2005.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's quite interesting.
He had a red 2-door Blazer and a maroon coloured van. So
Interesting.
The only thing that I always kind of got a little bit conflicting with in terms of the Ryan Hillegas versus Teresa love story / was he stalking her? Was there unfinished business towards them? Jay Jax is absolutely right. There is an email where Teresa is stating back to her friend that, that she observed him checking her ass out and stuff. And then she is the one that elaborates on, I can't believe I used to love him. I haven't been in that kind of, sense of a relationship like that, or I'm paraphrasing here, but it's almost like she's the one that was doing the reflecting here about, young love. That's how I kind of read it, and how as individuals, they've kind of grown since then, even though he's checking her out. But the thing that I get really conflicted with is that we've got that email with, she's not stating where she's like, Ryan was checking me out, I wish he would fuck off, or was in a negative light. She used it as more of a reflective of their past and where she's going in the future. And then we have that moment where Tom Pierce alleges that there was something going on weeks prior where Teresa, and I apology if I say weeks, if the terminology was months or a year prior, I don't know off the top of my head what the timeline of this bit was, but that was that there was apparently a wedding. Teresa didn't want to go because, and I quote, Tom alleges that because Ryan Hillegas was there and she didn't want to be a part of it because he was part of the wedding party and she didn't want to be there. This is the reason why I get really, really conflicted with that, is because at the same breath, if Teresa can control whether she turns up to a party or not, she has the same control, if not more, to prevent him from coming to her home, her space, putting her in any predicament where she feels uncomfortable, yet she doesn't. Whether he's best friends with Scott or not, if you were really in that situation where, you felt threatened, he was harassing you, or there had been a disagreement recently, you could turn to your roommate, Scott, and say, listen, I know you guys are friends, but right now he's not coming over here. I don't want to see his fucking face. This is my home too. You are, allegedly, you are the boarder. This is my parents' home. I'm renting it too, but he's not to come over. Yet he was allowed to go there. So I find it hard to comprehend this idea that if she can control not going to a party because he's there, why she couldn't control him from invading her privacy and her space where she doesn't have to see him. She can easily close the door to her home from him, but she lets him over, so much so that he alleges that days before, he can't remember whether it was day or night or what time, that he went over there to drop off something from Scott. So clearly she was allowing him on the premises. So that is why I get really iffy about the whole, were they, what kind of relationship did they really have when we have all these conflicting, sides of it, where we've never had any of her current friends or her old friends come forward and say anything on the terms of, or even family, listen, Ryan this or Ryan that. No, the only time Ryan's name gets dropped into it is Tom Pierce, which is just a work colleague. And I know that that's not fair to say that they didn't have discussions, because they probably do. Like, you go to work, you build a relationship with your colleagues, and you do talk about private life. And, they did know each other, and he did, take her under his wing and give her space to do her photography and stuff. So I get that aspect of it too, but it only comes from Tom. And when I went back and looked at the timeline, Tom inserts Ryan Hillegas at the same time that Kathleen Zellner had Ryan Hillegas as, and I quote, in her motion, the only possible killer in this case.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, correct me if I'm wrong, Tom didn't mention Ryan specifically in 2005, did he? Or did he? Seems like he couldn't. He only
ends
up bringing him in
2017.
She's got this, I don't know his name, and she's got, and then all of a sudden, 17, he knows.
2017
Ryan.
To Kathleen Zellner's investigators is the only time he then turns from not knowing who, what, when, where, to then Ryan Hillegas, and then it turns into specific events like weddings and stuff. So that he doesn't drop Ryan's name until 2017 with Kathleen's team. And that's when Kathleen uses that in her motion and actually, I'm paraphrasing it, but she actually writes, in a sense, the only killer possible is Ryan Hillegas. That's when she was going down him as the Denny claim. And then about a few months later, the amendment come in, and that is when she inserts Bobby Dassey. But it was always Ryan up until that point.
it's hard to deal with Kel because like she switched suspects, and it's hard to do that. Now, did Ryan's reputation get messed up from that? It's a serious question to have. And what if KZ gets denied and then Bobby's reputation, and he's going to be potentially barred if she gets denied, and you won't be able to bring him up? Is she going to float a new suspect? I'm sorry, these are really tough questions to ask. I know I'm looking 6 months in ahead, and I'm trying to guess what's going to happen. I don't know that she'll be denied. I just feel that's kind of that's how my feeling at this point. But I think, do you see where I'm going with that?
I see where you're going with it, but I was just thinking about the Ryan situation. I'm wondering, like, we don't know, but maybe they had some sort of falling out only a few weeks previously, like a couple of weeks before, and that's why she didn't want to do the wedding. Like, it could be a recent personal thing that had gone on between them and not a long-term thing.
We can't forget. Remember back to the phone calls, guys. Don't forget about the phone calls. Ryan and Teresa talked very often on the phone. Very
right, and then
often.
they stopped.
Until like the 25th or 26th of October.
Right.
And then something happened. Maybe, you just never know. I could sit here and probably throw out 500 different things that could have happened between them. Right. Maybe he wanted to get back together and he grabbed her ass and she's like, you know what? No, not now. Now you just, leave me alone for now.
And to be fair though, Jack, on the other side of that, like of the scales, if you would say, is we have a lot of phone calls to Ryan. So obviously they were in connection. They were friendly. Obviously they were friends. But don't have the text messages, right? We don't have the peripheral people she was talking to, the ones that she hasn't been friends with since high school. You know what I mean? These, more questionable people. So that's on the other hand of what you said, that there's a lot of calls between, but we don't have the text messages, So without those text messages, we only have the phone calls, right? It's it's so frustrating. In my mind.
Really
is. They made it all about a business day. They never even looked into her personal life whatsoever. They just tunnel visioned, and that was it. And we're left to guess.
I'm not quite sure if it's fair to say they tunnel visioned in a sense, because they didn't have to explore beyond her work business because the RAV was found so quickly. The timeline ended, the clock stopped, someone or something drove everyone back to the Avery Savage Yard in 43 hours out of a 48-hour window period, which is your standard clock for any homicide. We all know the first 48. It's such a popular, show on Foxtel or whatever, Crime CI, wherever you are in the world, where it hosts that channel, where they do the 48-hour window period is such a real significant thing to any detective that's investigating a homicide. And to think that all this ended in 43 hours. And when you go back, and like I have, I've broken down this timeline so many times, because when you really consider it, the only full day that they had any opportunity to explore anything at all was the 4th, because Teresa's mum, Karen, doesn't call in till the afternoon of the 3rd. But the investigation doesn't even hit the desk of Leslie Lemieux till 5 o'clock, 5:30, 5 o'clock, and then Uyghur doesn't become aware of it till 5:30, and then it starts, and then they're only going forward with it, that documents that we can see, for several hours until the next day it commences again. And the only as far as they get at in terms of the outside world, and the only name that gets flagged at her outside world is Bradley Checks, because Bradley Checks comes up when I think it's Jolene. They were at the house, and she comes up to one of the Jolene Bain comes up to one of the officers. I can't remember which one it was, and said, "Can I pull you to the side?" Pagel. Yep, I got something to say. Kath, this is your bit that you enjoy the most, but she says Therese is involved in something she doesn't fully understand. He's weird, blah, blah, blah. So he's the only one in terms of outside that box do we kind of see something. But then the next morning, it's over. He's forgotten immediately, because what connection has he got to the Avery salvage yard? That's all gone.
Yeah, I know. They don't even treat her house as a crime scene. Like, how do they not know that she didn't make it home? And then by this stage, the whole house is filled with friends and everyone else tainting any evidence that may have been there. That's what I mean by tunnel vision. By the next day, her house isn't even treated as a crime scene, even though she lives with the guy. Her ex is coming over all the time. She's got a friend saying that she's broke up with Bradley Chess because she found him weird. But yet, by this stage, they're already overlooking at Stevens.
Well, yeah,
Yeah, they went
were
back to
done.
Stevens on the 4th to see if anybody else was there. They had ignored Zippers on the 4th, but they did. Pagel did send what's his name to the high school, which is weird.
Schultz.
But also to track down, yeah, Schultz. I wanted to say Schmitz, and I knew that wasn't it. Schultz to the high school and to track down Bradley Check. So, and then of course, they're busy with the facts and
So
trying to
he
figure
was
all that out,
actually
too.
Schultz's permanent office was at the high school. He's a liaison officer over there.
Oh, that's right.
So
That's right. Okay.
He's a
It
dare
does
officer. Wasn't he a
sound-
dare officer? Is that right?
That could be. I don't know about that detail, but that sounds about right, because he's the liaison. He'd probably be doing the DARE program, right? Same program I went to in Fond du Lac there, you know. So Schultz, the circumstances surrounding the Brad Check party is something I always found fishy. For one, he scopes out this area by Jeanette Trucking Company. That's called the Sand Pits at Jeanette Trucking Company. I don't understand why he was directed to check these sand pits at this time. It's a very strange thing to. Not only does he check the sand pits at Jeanette Trucking Company, which is in Calumet County. This is on the way to do the interview with Brad Check, by the way. This is before, on the same day before they interview Brad Check. They check out this. But the problem is where he describes it in his report. It's a very big inaccuracy. He says the sand pits near Jeanette Trucking Company, and that is about 20 miles away from where he says he's on the. Oh God, what's the name of that road? Corda Road, something like that. PP and K. He's searching over in PP and K, which is halfway to Brad Check's house. He's doing a double search there. He searches on the way to Brad Check's house, PP and K, and on the way back from Brad Check's house, he searches another area around PP and K. So when I say the circumstances surrounding the interview of Brad Check, are strange. They are strange. There's definitely some. I don't know if they thought he could be involved, so they were just trying to make sure that they covered their bases. But it is fishy. You know, it's something that we were talking about, guys, is to kind of go back, and we did a live, I think, a year ago about the suspects. We were discussing the suspects. And so one of the things that I want to do moving forward is maybe go and tiptoe back around and maybe take a couple suspects at a time, people that were not really looked at enough. Maybe Redant and Bradley, or Ryan and Bradley, or Redant and Chuck, or there's a lot of people on that list that we had that deserve more investigating. And so not because we think they're guilty, but because the cops didn't do it. And so I think that's something in the future that we're kind of going to work towards, is maybe putting together something like that. So keep an eye out for that, guys. Other than that, I'll let you guys get back to the question that you had.
Oh, real quick, I just to address Kel, because I don't normally disagree with her, and I only partially disagree with her on the fact that Stephen Avery wasn't tunnel visioned, because I don't think he was tunnel visioned at all until after the RAV was found. But after the RAV was found, I still don't think he was being tunnel visioned by everyone by any means whatsoever. But it has always irked me, and it's not so much that I think Chuck did it, because I really don't think he did, but it's always irked me that Chuck was never even considered as a suspect, and I really don't know how they would have eliminated him. Even when the dogs hit in his trailer. I know the blood was his and it wasn't Teresa's, but they had no way of knowing that when the dog's hit. Then he's got a criminal record that, and then like, I mean, the Webbers, there's so many
He's
people
got
that are
a
like, oh,
he's got a
if it was,
much he's got a much more extensive criminal record than Steven.
yeah, absolutely. And but yet they named Bobby as a person of interest, but they never, Chuck and Earl are never really, I mean, they hammered Earl, don't get me wrong.
Oh
They
yeah,
hammered on him
they
big
did.
time. But
Oh, they did.
boy, they kind of, I don't know. I just don't know how you overlook Chuck, and they definitely overlook Chuck. And to me, that's like, well, we don't really care if he did it. If he did it, we're gonna get Steven anyways. At least that's kind of how I've
Well,
always taken it.
well, he was the goal in the depositions and arrest him. That was their goal.
Oh yeah,
Whatever
absolutely.
else, whatever else came about. But
Yeah, right. No, and I mean the one reason I feel like maybe because they didn't really look at Barb's trailer or Bobby's blazer or anything like that, anyways. But the one thing that they could do with Bobby is they could put him with Steven immediately. So it's like, oh, you know what? If he did it, that's cool. We'll just get him to say Steven helped him, and it's done. And I don't think they could put him with Chuck because Chuck, well, boy, I don't know. I mean, Chuck and Fabian both say he went back to the office. Like both of their stories, neither one of them match up with Steven. So I don't know. But either way,
I
it still
just
would have been kind of harder to get Chuck and Steven hanging out, I guess, to have committed the crime together, if that makes sense.
I just want to clarify. I agree with you, Ziggy, and just in case I didn't make it clear, when I said I don't think it was tunnel vision, I just meant before the rub was found. I'm talking in terms of that first 48 hours of that, especially that first few hours of the third to the fourth.
Right.
In terms of what direction they were going for. In fact, I think that if they weren't the ones that put the Rav there, I don't know which one was praying to whatever God they believe in, but they must have thought that they won the lottery when it did rock up on the 5th. Because, they, in my view, when I listened to all the phone calls early on the morning of the 5th, and we have Remika who displays some kind of agreement that he doesn't even believe that Stephen Avery's demeanor was of guilty, that he actually believes that or felt that Stephen was telling the truth. And when we hear that phone call between him and Wiegert where they're kind of outlining the timeline where they were at, and they actually had it as Stephen and then the Zippers. So the reason why I'm like that, a man miracle for them is the fact that the moment that Rav is found, it helped them immensely, because if you ask me, they were at the borderline of having to let Stephen go completely by the
Right.
morning of the 5th. He had
No,
been
absolutely.
cooperative since the 3rd. They had gone and done 2 sweeps on the 4th. He had done interviews. They were all kind of like, no, I don't think he's got anything to do with it. We had David Beach going in there on the 4th, which is
Yeah.
the cousin who had come forward as well and said,
And actually
hey,
talked to Steven.
I spoke to Stephen. He was really forthcoming, cooperative, no red flags. So I actually really do believe that, this is why I was saying with Kath, when she said, that it all kind of came crashing in. She's absolutely right. It did come crashing in for LE. And that's what makes it crazy. Like, how lucky can you get that just before that? I think the reason why I say that they probably didn't, Kath said, well, they didn't treat her home like a crime scene, which is true. It's an absolute true fact. It should have been considered almost immediately that she could have made it home. But when I went back and had a look, you look at all the information they had gathered or collected from the witnesses, no one place ever seeing her back home. That's why they worked from the outside in instead of working from the inside out, because all the witnesses had said, the roommate has said she hadn't been home. Her mum, who lived next door, said she hasn't seen her car come home. No one's seen her around. Her sisters are calling. She's not answering. She's not coming to work. So in the world of investigation, you start from, like, when you lose something, where do you go? You go back to the very first place you remember having it, and you work backwards. Well, in this circumstance, the last time Teresa was seen was on duty in a work environment. That's why they started from her work, and then was going to, probably work their way out. If that RAV hadn't been found, I believe that on the 5th, if that RAV wasn't found, that is when the victimology would have really kicked into play, and then they would have had to have started working from her personal box in and out.
Definitely, because Remaker in that same, well, I think it was the same phone call, if not it was the one after it, but he's telling Herman, he's like, I don't think he's involved. But hey, did you see that roommate on the TV last night? Boy, he's shady as hell. Wouldn't even look at the camera. So
Yeah.
I mean, Remaker's thinking about Blodor, and at that point, he's like, maybe we should go talk to him. But
Yeah, he wouldn't even look up.
Right. But then I started realizing too, because as I'm putting, I don't know, I've just been thinking lately, because I enjoy the Custro discussions and that, because it's like old but new again, And so that they were keeping, like, Manitowoc never ever went to Teresa's house. It was just Wiegert, Dietering, I think did, and Poggle did, but Manitowoc never went to Teresa's house that I recall.
Nope. Well, I mean, other than there might have been, maybe, no, I guess there was always a queso deputy that went and picked shit up from there. Not a Manitowoc deputy. I guess
Yeah, I
you're
don't
right.
remember ever going.
Yep. I don't either. Now that
So
I
like
think
they
about it.
controlled that. Calumet did. I don't know. I mean, and it could be nothing really, but
Well, I mean, it's in their county. I mean, she lived in their county, but that didn't really seem to matter at that point, one way or the other.
right. But I mean, Calumet's, but they got Manitowoc running around, Zippers and Avery's, and mostly Avery's. Because again, why they didn't go back to Zippers on the 4th and to talk to George when he was sober, who knows? But they didn't. Never crossed their mind. Wiegert's running around Green Bay tracking down a fax, and nobody, and as aside from Schultz tracking down Brad Check, Poggle and Baldwin are just doing a flyover. Like nobody's checking that house out really. I mean, they got, I can't remember. Did they get the panties and all that on the 3rd? I don't really remember,
No, I think that was afterwards. I think it was
but yeah,
a
I
day or
did
two later.
too. I mean, Karen called Auto Trader before she called Calumet to report her missing. Ryan and Scott have the phone numbers before Wiegert and Poggle even get there. I don't
No, like
think
they just
really got
hand them
bunch
to
of
them like on a
anything.
platter.
Yeah, like I said, that's what I'm saying. And so even going back to Kel's timeline on the 4th, I mean, yeah, no, the 4th is really the day they had time to do all this stuff. And in a sense, you're going through the investigation and nothing looks shady. But on the 4th, I mean, you'd think
Well,
somebody would at least be kind of treating her home as a crime scene, not a headquarters for.
The 21 blocked calls on Ryan's phone looks really strange.
Oh yeah,
I'm not
absolutely.
saying there may not be anything nefarious at all with that. I don't know. I just looking at the rest of his phone records, it's weird. But whatever.
Well, no, it does, but it almost like a John Benet Ramsey thing. Like I said, they're using that as a headquarters for volunteers to come and search. That's what's her house on the 4th. They're not keeping anybody out of anything on the 4th.
And that's what I was under the assumption of in terms of research that I found, that it shows that from what I saw from other witnesses and especially Ryan and Scottson, that there was a gathering at Teresa's home on the evening of the 4th where they were Ryan and all that were planning on with the maps of where they were going to go the next day, and that's when they were starting to organize this search party. And I was under the assumption with some other research that was done and that was brought to me that people were calling in the law enforcement and was asking about how to be involved in this search party because they wanted to help. And those calls to Ryan's phone and privates was law enforcement dispatch that was sending those people to his phone to answer it, to organize the meeting point, the timing and stuff. It's been so long since I've gathered all that back all up, but that is why, that was one of the possibilities of why there was this private number, because it was actually for coming from the line of law enforcement. I don't know whether that would show whether like a government body of law enforcement would come through as a private number. But that was something that I've always been introduced in terms of a possibility that it was actually just people in the search party that was being transferred to his phone because he had left it with law enforcement because they were very well aware that there was this search party happening the next day, because you actually hear a call, I believe it is, where they're discussing it. And it actually doesn't seem like that the law enforcement were just too overly keen on it. Like they're like, yeah, the family are having a search party. It's got nothing to do with us. Yet they were getting phone calls regarding it. Oh, I heard that there's a search party going on. And this could be why we don't have
Well-
dispatches for the 4th, because that's when it would be in that group, that cluster of calls we wouldn't get from dispatch.
A lot
These
of
people calling in.
a lot of law enforcement agencies around, at least in here, I mean, they do organize the search parties that happened, but they were very disinterested in that whole affair. You could tell they were disinterested.
It is. Hey, do you think that is weird? Like, I'm actually, because I agree
Yes.
with you. I think a lot of, and I know Kath has been involved in like some being a part of a search party situation with some individuals, and you think that would be the leading thing of a law enforcement agency to automatically conduct a law, like, and ask the public to help us grid and walk and let's locate this missing woman. Like, ask the public for help.
Happens all the time here. All the time. Law enforcement's like,
Yeah,
hey,
but they
we're
really
going to
did
organize
seem
a search.
disinterested.
And we've got a gigantic area to search, and we're asking for volunteers. You'll be paired up with a deputy. Blah blah blah. Please show up here. They do it all the time, but Calumet and Manitowoc were disinterested in that, all that, up until they, wanted to use that aspect a little bit later. But
Of course, Pam and
Yeah.
her God, Pam and her stuff. I've got a question for the panel, and I've got a quick question, and obviously people in chat that are here can answer it. It's I understand that this is a really, really hard question that you can answer, because I don't think you'll ever know, but it's just something I want to kind of get your feel on it. In terms of law enforcement and having that tunnel vision that we speak of, which we know is apparent, they definitely had it one way or the other, whether you believe it was at the beginning, the middle, or throughout. It's everyone's individually thinks whatever. But my question is, a lot of people, including I have, considered that, we all look at it like, he was, Stephen had 36 million. What do we say? There was 36 million reasons why you'd want to become tunnel vision. There's 36 reasons why you'd want to shut this shit down. Has anyone ever considered that? What if law enforcement actually was scared of Stephen? And I've got to pose this in the right way. The question is, we look at the fact that Stephen had a lawsuit against the county, and he was going to try to get, people like some certain law officers held responsible for the wrongful conviction. When we say he was tunnel visioned, are we confident in accepting that? What if that lawsuit was enough for them to not want to touch him immediately? So when they did start this case, they did start wanting to explore other avenues. But when the Ravi's found so abruptly on the 5th, on the morning of the 5th, so quickly in terms of the timing of the investigation, that's when they had no choice but to continue with, okay, it is possibly Stephen. So why do we always just assume that the $36 million is enough to want to destroy Stephen, versus kind of maybe understanding that would be enough to back away from him, especially when it all came back to the Avery salvage yard? There were so many other alternatives and people that were on that salvage yard that day. Wouldn't you want to, as a law enforcement, wouldn't you want to explore basically everybody else first? Because you would turn around and say, we are not fucking this up again, for God's sake. We don't need another lawsuit. I don't care if you turn every table upside down, look at everyone else but Stephen until we have no other option, because I am not going through this shit again. We are already on the chopping block for this shit. So if I've posed my question right, do you guys think that $36 million lawsuit could have, in a sense, also had a certain protection on him where it made him untouchable to a degree? Or do you think once the RAV was found, all bets was off? They saw the opportunity, the $36 million they saw could be washed away, and that's when they went, let's go for it.
That's a good question.
I think it's the timing of everything. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Strauss calls on. I think it's. I really, I really think it's over Manitowoc's head. I don't think Manitowoc. I don't think there's anybody that was actually working the investigation from Manitowoc that truly. I mean, obviously, the lawsuit wasn't going to affect them personally. It's going to affect Kosrick most likely, and Vogel perhaps personally, maybe Peterson, but that's about it. And so, and then of course you look at DCI in the state, and it wasn't going to affect them. But I don't know. Strauss calls on the 4th, Officer Services. They find the RAV. They arrest Stephen on the 9th. They got depositions to resume on the 10th. Poggle makes sure that Stephen can't talk to his attorneys and Glenn and everybody else. They can't find him. They don't know where he's at. So they've got almost no choice but to pause the depositions for the 10th because, I mean, they don't know what's going on with their client. I mean, he put all these things into perspective. You know, again, they find the RAV on the 5th in 20 minutes, you know, and then they go for a couple of days and it takes me back to the cuss thing where it's like, it's just, I mean, it's like, it's almost the same as the RAV, you know, like, I mean, I'm almost wondering if Bushman had a map, said, hey, listen, take some people, volunteers, you lead them, start here in the gravel pits and grid it out. And then did they find something at Cuss Road, or did they go past the gravel pits that they were supposed to stop at? And then by the 8th, they're like, shit, this is not going to work. We needed the bones. We needed a crime scene in the gravel pits. And you idiots walked past it and you spent all day with floodlights and dogs and everything else on Cuss Road. And I don't know, but it's real similar with the RAV. I mean, they spent a ton of time. I mean, why couldn't they open the RAV on the property? But if they can't open it, that's fine. Why did it take all day? Oh, dang it. It's got to be my phone. Am I back?
You're back.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, why did it take 30 hours to take the RAV off of the property? I mean, for what? Just remove it then. Take it to the crime lab. I mean, and then you've got pictures of Stephen's burn pit on the 6th, but there's no bones in it. You've got and they're taking the investigation. It's almost like they're looking anywhere and everywhere but the salvage yard. Like, I don't know. So I don't know that Stephen was necessarily untouchable. He may have. I mean, again, you got to look at the people that are involved in the lawsuit that it's really truly going to affect. I mean, the ones that are actually working it, do they even care? I mean, and then you've got to get Calumet and DCI to go along with it. And then I mentioned it earlier. I mean, they hired Stephen hires Buting and Strang, and I feel like they got scared to death because that's when they went after each and every one. They go hard at Jody again. They go hard at all the Dassies to make damn sure that Stephen had a fire that day and their stories. And like I said, Brendan didn't have a story at that point because his story on November 10th was that you know, he saw Teresa after he got off the bus still. And so Brendan was just plainly fucked because they got to get a brand new story from him, and they also want more evidence so that Buting and Strang can't say, well, the key was planted and the blood was planted and the RAV was planted, and that's all you need to know. I mean, it's almost like they panicked because they never really thought that Stephen would get real attorneys. And I know that, I mean, we could go have a whole new discussion on the errors and mistakes that Buting and Strang made, but I mean, Kratz was scared of Buting and Strang. I mean, their reputations were good at the time. And that's the other thing. How did Kratz get on the case? I mean, quickly too, of all the people, you know, the one guy I mean, everybody had to have known about his drug problem, surely, and his sexual allegations that they hid. So I don't know.
Oh, I feel certain they probably knew, but you know, I guess I have a little bit different spin on it. I'm not saying I'm right either. This is more of just, you know, as I've went through all this time, I think about the depositions, and they were not going well by late October. They weren't going well for the county at all. And obviously they had, Kasorka and Vogel left to go. But I think back to what definitely those in higher state authority knew about Gregory Allen and the cold case that he.
The 91 case. I just read that today too. That he posted.
That's right. You didn't know about that?
I did, but again, it's one of those things I just read it once when Sunshine posted it and thought, wow, that's neat.
Yeah.
Kind of forgot. I mean, I have a memory bank that is like I think I retain things like for a day or two longer than Calf, but that's it. No offense, Calf.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a major thing. It's a huge thing when you think about it. If that story had came out at any time, June or July, it's just moving forward. Let's just say from June up until, the end of October. If that story had broke during those depositions, it would have been a disaster for the state. There's just no way around it. Well, I guess I say that if journalists had done their job, it would have been a disaster. Now, I'm not saying in Wisconsin that would have happened. It might not have, but I think it would have. It's a huge story. I don't know if that had some people higher up in Wisconsin really afraid if that came out, because that would have clearly have shown some real bad malfeasance on the part of law enforcement in Manitowoc, and could have spelled not only disaster for Stevens' lawsuit for them, but potentially other people too. I don't know, but I think that had them extremely worried.
Oh, definitely. I think so.
I've also just always felt like maybe it's just a feeling, and I can't give you a pound of flesh for it. For what I'm going to say is that I just got the feeling in everything that I've read that something was going to happen. Something was going to end those depositions and somehow remove Avery out of this equation, because I just see end result of we don't always get to see the beginning of what perpetuates something to happen, other than like this lawsuit. Stevens trying to get some kind of compensation out of the state for his wrongful conviction, and he spent 12 extra years in jail. The other he should have spent. He shouldn't have done that to Sandra Morris. He's a stupid idiot for doing it. But the rest, no, I'm sorry. But, again, I just see this end result, and I just get this feeling something was going to happen. I don't know if Glenn and Kelly, because as Brian said, that they couldn't find him, or they couldn't get in touch with him for hours there on the 9th after they arrested him. They played keep away with the lawyers until, I don't know, 8 or 9 o'clock that night, and they finally were able to get in to see him for a little while. I think it was a huge mistake canceling the deposition, but that's me. Of course, hindsight's always 20/20, right?
Right.
So
See, I always wonder what happened. What would happen if they found the Rav on the 5th, and found the blood, whatever, and they immediately arrest Stephen on like the 6th or the 7th? Why to wait till the 9th? Because if they arrest him on the 6th or 7th or the 5th, even, is that going to pause the depositions on the 10th? But no, they wait till the 9th, and then they hide him. And I really feel like that's why they did that.
Game of brinksmanship.
Well, yeah, because they're gonna have to get a delay, right? I mean, just arresting Stephen and charging him with murder isn't gonna stop the depositions, and it didn't. Eventually he just settles for the $400,000. But that's but it gives the state and the court some bargaining power now.
Leverage.
Glenn's still gonna get paid, and Stephen needs money for some attorneys. So can we just get him to settle it? And they probably, frankly, they might have settled it for $1 million. Who is it? Is it Kolstrick and Vogel that, are they that desperate to stop the depositions? And do they have that kind of power? Or was it more something like the 91 case and the botched Manitowoc investigation into the wrongdoing that Griesbach was all over the fact by then? It was that what scared the state and said, you know what, we got to do something about this.
I think the problem, well, I can't say Vogel and Kasork weren't worried, but I'm betting that, you had Peg Lautenschlager and the rest of them in this Wisconsin Madison were more worried than these other guys
I would
because
think
of
so.
the floodgates could have very well opened for
Oh,
other
absolutely.
cases to have come
Absolutely.
through the door. So
All the sexual cases that Vogel ever tried would have been questioned. Some like the crime lab evidence would have been. I mean, it would have caused chaos for the state. And then how much did Peg know about the
well,
you know what I mean? I mean, because again, her investigation said she cleared Manitowoc County of any wrongdoing. Did she
I
know
think
that?
she knew. Well, and I think she knew everything, but I don't. You know, you get in a position like that, it's like you have all the power and no choices at all, right? She had really no choice but to clear them. Not
Oh,
really.
that's true. But she could have. They could have stalled that investigation too. You know.
They could
I
have.
mean,
They could have. I agree. I don't know if that really answers your question, Kel. Not really. I just I don't know. I just have this feeling something was going to happen, and maybe that's a result of what I already know and found out after the fact. If I'd have known, you know, it would have been better if I'd have known information prior to ever reading all this other stuff and seeing Making a Murder and going through everything that we found out since then. I don't know if that's tainted my memory. I just remember when I watched Making a
Mhm.
Murderer, it just felt like something, and then we got the documents and so forth. It just felt like something was going to happen to end it, and of course it did.
Yeah. Just quickly, three. Well, for starters, I'm glad you guys. Thanks for answering. And you did kind of hit base on where I was going with that, and I think I saw a few comments in the chat relating to it too. And I posed it as a law enforcement kind of cluster of how it would reflect on them and what side of it you can review, whether it's a protection mode for them versus a driving force to go forward more. But I'm just going to flip it one more way. And that is so because we've established that, you know, it would be more favorable for law enforcement and, you know, you keep echoing JJax, which I'm going to go to, which I agree. It felt like something was going to happen eventually. They were just, something was brewing. But when I flipped a switch, I can't be confident to say that I then can believe that if law enforcement didn't have some kind of participation, not so much with the death of Teresa and the framing around that, like a bigger conspiracy with that part of it, but I'm talking about the real killer side, i.e., an individual that isn't connected to law enforcement. That, you know, we always reference the point that there could have been two separate entities to this crime: the killer and the crime itself. And then you have that, and then on the other side we have the planting where law enforcement could be. But when I flip the switch and I think of the killer, and again, this is they can't be law enforcement. This is an individual or individuals that committed the crime. I can't confidently say that I believe that they would frame Stephen Avery because of this law, like this, having the law civil suit behind them as a driving force either. Just they wouldn't have the ability to know the power of how much that would change and help them without reflecting on that whole premises that what if law enforcement don't take this seriously because of my uncle, my brother, my neighbor, my best friend, whoever committed this crime or whatever link they have to Stephen Avery, would have really understood that. So I don't see why, you know, like personally for me, I find it hard to believe someone that could be in that associated circle of Stevens would plant against Stephen Avery versus just you've made a mistake, you've committed a crime, and why not just disregard and hide the evidence away from you, away from Stephen, and you're trying to get away with the crime. For all they knew, this could have backfired, and the civil suit could have become a protection barrier for Stephen with the law enforcement. They don't have the power of that knowledge. So I just wanted to say that, and I hope you guys understood that.
No, I do
Yeah.
understand that. That's why, again, I mean, I watched Making a Murder, and then I started investigating, you know, reading the case files and trial and all that kind of stuff. And forever and a day, was thinking like, oh yeah, Manitowoc's got to be behind this. Manitowoc's got to be behind this. But then like the Murdoch trial really opened my eyes again too, because I really think Alec Murdoch would still be out of prison if he would have been able to keep that investigation within the county that he controlled for 100+ years. But no, SLED came in and started investigating, and that's when you got to really start thinking. And then you start going back again and looking at some of these things, and it's like, wait a minute, yeah, why are they sending Lincoln Coburn to investigate Cuss first? Why are they making sure that Remacher shows up first to investigate the RAV? Why are they doing all of these things? How is Manitowoc, are they finding the evidence because they planted all the evidence, or are they finding the evidence because they're being sent? It seems more like they're being sent every time. I mean, Coburn, the crime lab hands sterile equipment to Coburn, Lincoln, Remacher to collect blood from Stephen's bathroom on the 5th. Why didn't the crime lab just collect it themselves? Why are they making Manitowoc do it? Just think stupid, silly things like this. And it's like, and so, and that's why I have a hard time wrapping my head around Bobby, because Bobby has no control over anything. Chuck has no control over anything. Ryan Hilligus has no control over anything. But the one thing Ryan's got that Bobby and Chuck is that they don't ever look that direction. So that's a plus for him. Plus, you can put him on the property during the investigation, so that kind of helps. But at the same time, I mean, at the end of the day, you need Fassbender and Wiegert to go after Brendan. It's not Manitowoc. And then, but yet then again, on March 2nd, for whatever reason, they bring him Manitowoc back to look through the garage. I mean, for what? I mean, it makes a little bit of sense. They're looking at a 40-acre salvage yard at the beginning. They need all the manpower they can get, but I mean, the garage, I mean, 2 guys could have walked through that thing and still been home
Well,
for lunch, probably.
that was something else too. Let's step back. Just hold your thought. Let's just stick a pin in what you just said there just for a second. And you think about that November 9th call Sipple made. And he's asking for 40 to 60 law enforcement officers. And they really specifically mentioned the state troopers. Not one time did Manitowoc come into this. Not once in that conversation. They're done. They're out. So I have to wonder why the hell, where the hell's Manitowoc, man? Anyway,
Yeah,
go ahead.
and well, maybe I mean, I can't believe the 150+ officers, whatever that was working, are all in on framing Stephen.
No,
So
absolutely
maybe
not.
I mean, I think Sipple's actually looking for the evidence, and I think he's actually looking for the narrative of what actually happened. Maybe. I mean, I don't like a lot of them, I think were. I don't know, but it's just yeah, I don't know. But you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying though, right? I mean, it's like
Mhm.
I'm what Kelly's saying basically. It's like you've got to. I mean, if you're gonna kill a snake, you've got to cut the head off of it. And I don't know if Manitowoc had enough clout to pull it off on their own. They definitely didn't have enough clout to pull it off on their
No.
own. So they've got to recruit, Poggle. But Poggle's kind of easy because him and Kostrick work together, and then they're neighboring counties. They work together for years. So he might be easy to bring in, but then you've got to bring in Fassbender and DCI. So I don't know. Maybe it just starts with DCI. I have no idea. I think at the end of the day, I mean, who found the RAV and brought it back to
Yeah,
Avery
but
Salvage?
you got to look at who controlled the forensics. That's
Oh yeah, the
really where you
crime
got to
lab.
look.
That's the thing, the crime lab. I mean, all you really
That's
need
right.
is Eisenberg and Culhane. That's it. And then there again, I mean, does Manitowoc have that kind of relationship, or does Fassbender? Because Fassbender's writing notes.
Yeah, it's an interesting. It's really frustrating too because the lack of information hurts us, and we're missing. We're
Yeah.
missing big chunks of. It hurts what we know. It hurts how we can draw our conclusions. And I hate I hate it. I've been involved so long with it. I hate the lack of information. It's really frustrating.
No, it is, and that's why I have a hard time drawing conclusions. Anyways, and I can be talked into anything on any given day.
I used to
like
get
calf,
I used to get stuck on it. Something you said, Ziggy, about how you're like, and how did Ken Kratz come involved, and then I always used to get stuck on how he writes in his book, and he makes it quite known that Wiegert went to his office and stood at his door and was like, you're not going to believe who was the last person to see our missing person, Stephen Avery, like that, and I always used to kind of hang on to that and go, huh. It's almost like there was an excitement, or not an excitement, that's probably not the right word. It was almost like
I guess what?
I guess what in the case so early for them, which then stems onto what you were saying in my points I was writing down, Jay Jax, when you're like, something felt like it was brewing. And we see evidence of that because just before this situation of Teresa Halbach, wasn't there the Marie situation where there was a pending investigation that they were actually looking into about this allegation, so that there was that kind of,
Well, no, they had investigated it. I've
they
got the
had,
paperwork.
right.
Yeah, it was done. And so, that's really kind of the surprising thing. Baldwin gets sent back over to go back after Marie again. This is months later after that
Yep.
that part it was closed. She goes after at the high school and she's like, I don't want to talk to you. Leave me the fuck alone. Blah 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 blah. So another stupid
Yep.
mistake of. I mean, there's some people that don't really believe that they hooked up. I do. I think that happened a couple of times, but um, yeah, it was a done deal. It was closed. It had been closed, and then of course all this happened. So yeah.
And the last point is, you mentioned when you were speaking in terms of my question, you said the Sandra Morris situation. We all believe that what Stephen did was inappropriate. It was dumb. It was a move that consequently bit him in the ass at the same time. I just want clarification, because I have been aware that there is there's a trending kind of thought out there is I've always heard, and what I've read is Stephen, out of them 18 years of imprisonment, 6 of those were in relation strictly to Sandra Morris. Now,
Yeah,
I have been just recently shown that there is not confirmation that he actually legally did get charged for it. It's just that they always incorporated into the sentence. So my clarification is, did he actually stand trial for Sandra? Or was that honestly, did that all become part of one, like it all went concurrent into one, like the 1985 Penny case, and they kind of tried it all together?
No, as I recall, of course, the Sandra Morris incident happened first, then the Penny Bernstein incident, and then when it all came down, he was tried for the Penny Bernstein incident, and then the Sandra Morris incident was second. I think it was a separate thing because it was a separate incident. And so it was kind of a pile on, I think, by probably Hazelwood when it happened. I don't have the paper. We don't have that paperwork, I don't think. At least I don't have it. But I think it was a completely secondary thing. But I think it happened right afterwards. I don't think they were rolled into one. I could be wrong, though. Don't hold me to that. But I think if he would just been tried on the Sandra Morris incident and he would have gotten 6 years, he probably would have gotten out in probably, I'm guessing 2.5 to 3 years, maybe, possibly 4. I don't know, but somewhere in that neighborhood.
It's my understanding from reading up earlier today, and I could be wrong because I'm just taking somebody else's comments, but he was tried for Bernstein, and then Sandra Morris gave a witness impact statement at sentencing or something, basically complaining that she wasn't going to get, or Avery wasn't going to get time for assaulting her, and that's when the judge added on 6 years in, gosh darn, another term, but in succession basically, so he wasn't going to do any extra time for it, but
it could have happened that way. I don't have the paperwork. I wish I did.
Somebody said earlier today.
They
seemed like they knew what they were doing or talking about.
I wish we had the 85 case file in total, but hey, somebody can cough up. Jeff, you got an extra $5,000 laying around that I can order that?
No, but I do take a good lead from my friend Calf when she says you should just repeat, "Good fortune comes to me like a magnet. Good fortune comes to me like a magnet." Just put it out there. Just put it out there that you need into the universe, Jack. Whatever you need to do, say it. I need $5,000 for this one purpose. I'm not being greedy. And just, you know what? And maybe it'll happen. You gotta have a positive mindset, right?
I've thought about doing a GoFundMe to try to raise funds for that, but it's a pretty old case, and I don't know that we'd have that much interest because I mean, it's like when I called Manitowoc, it was like I was talking to the clerk, and she's like, well, because I was asking for this and that, she said, well, she wanted to act like they didn't do, kind of break up the file like that. And I'm like, well, yeah, you really kind of do. She said, well, you could just get the entire case file. And I'm like, well, how much is that? And she said, well, and she comes back and she's like, well, it's like $4,800 and something dollars. I'm like, yeah, that's not going to work. So I do have, before we do pictures, I do have one comment I want to make. That's okay, Cal? I've been asked this a couple of times, and I got another DM today about it. And I just wanted to address it and even ask a question of you guys, and Travis is here in the live chat, and this concerns about a place in I guess in Calumet called Hickory Hill Storage. They were asking me if I know about it, and I'm like, well, of course I've heard of it, but and this is in relation to storing of case evidence off-site, as in the RAV, which, if let's just take that storing case evidence at a off-site facility that's not ran and controlled by the county and or the state. I think that runs for me personally, and this was my answer to this person that DM'd me today, and actually a couple more that have DM'd me about it. When you have case evidence like this, you have a legal problem. I'm not a lawyer. You get what you pay for here. So Travis, please feel free to correct me. But you have a legal thing around this that case evidence must be protected, and you can't have people that are not authorized having access to it, right? So, and on top of that, even if they did have, let's just say that they leased a facility from whoever, from some entity, even then, they wouldn't necessarily want that. They wouldn't want that revealed, especially if it's an unmanned, warehouse offsite facility that really no one's there. They may have an alarm on it, but okay. They wouldn't want that address out in the public for the bad element to have access to and know where case evidence is, because hey, they could go break in and steal some shit, right? And really ruin some cases. That was my reply. So I don't know if anybody knows about Hickory Hills, or if a
Yeah.
county entity would even consider doing that. You understand what I'm saying?
We found it on what street is that? This was a few months ago already. I was kind of into this, and I think Millbilly was actually into this a few months ago as well.
That's right.
And kind of exploring Hickory Hills. If it's the one that we found, and I'm really pretty sure about it, and we can probably dig these pictures up, but maybe I can find it yet today if we have time. I think it's Mary Street or something, like a name like Mary Street. It's just north of Chilton, I believe, and I think that's the storage that they may have put the RAV in. I don't know. I don't know if they use that off-site storage for that. It does seem like it's possible. We can find it on a map that where this is. I might be able to do it maybe during picture time. If I can find it, we can share that. It is an interesting thing, and I just want to make one point on it, and then I'll let you others hit it. And that is, if we are going to say that we believe there was some, excuse the phrase, fuckery going on, then we need to float the idea of where this may have happened. And if this is an option, then it should be looked into. You know what I mean? If the RAV was definitely put in this off storage locker at Hickory Hills, like 2 miles north of Chilton, it's a private entity. It's not controlled by law enforcement, and that does bring an issue, Jack. And I agree with you. I really do think it's that there could be something like that's where something could happen. That's all I'm saying. That something could have happened in these hours where it was not accounted for. Yeah, it's an interesting angle. It's damn sure that I wouldn't have expected that to happen, but that's what happened.
Yeah. Anyway, if anybody out there knows for sure one way or the other, especially from the legal side of it, I really don't know. I think there would have to be some.
Well, is it
I
proven
don't
that it's actually been there? Can you prove that it was taken?
know.
No.
No.
Yeah, that's the
Mm-mm.
problem.
And I think I don't know about that either. Like I said, county sheriff's departments they rent storage space all the time, to store equipment and stuff like that. But I don't know about evidence. That's kind of. I mean, maybe,
Yeah,
but I
I
don't
mean,
think they do.
equipment, county equipment's fine.
Yeah.
But now when you start talking about case evidence, because if they're going to use it for, you would think, if they're going to use it for a vehicle, I would imagine that Calumet's not that big of a department. They've probably got storage issues anyway, but I would just have to imagine that they have their own controlled storage facility that's under their lock and key, and no one else has access.
Right. No, I would definitely think so because I mean, how many times do you see cases where like um, they're tampering with witnesses and stuff. So I mean, if you're going to tamper with a witness, I mean, if there's evidence you can tamper with because it's not that highly secured, I would
Yeah,
think.
that's what I'm saying. That's
I
what I'm
think we would
saying.
hear. I think we would hear about it. I guess.
I would think so.
Yeah, me too. It just seems like. Plus, if you're law enforcement and you got this RAV, don't you want to keep it as close as you can to you? You don't want any. You want to keep it as close
Hell
as you
yeah.
can. You don't want
Hell yeah.
something to happen that you're not aware of, right?
That's right. That's exactly right. So there's that contamination issues as well. That there's just all kinds of freaking problems surrounding offsite storage. And so anyway, all right. I just thought I'd throw it out there.
Yeah, I might send you a link or a picture or something. I'm still from my phone here, guys, but I might send you something and show you where I believe that this place is that we kind of researched before. But do you want to do some pictures still?
Okay.
We're 2 hours in. You want to throw a few down? We'll never get through the pile if we don't do a few.
That's entirely up to you. That's right. I'm good. I'm good if you are.
Let's roll some. Let's see how far we can go before we can't take it anymore.
Yeah, this is kind of. I rolled back just a couple from where we stopped the last time, and they were just a bunch of overheads that I'm pretty sure that the Air National Guard took these. And these are photos of photos. They're not actual digital transfer. But they're still Kappa. Kappa's mouth was watering. I would love to have these actual digital photos because they look really detailed.
Where are we at now? Do you,
it's waiting for you. I've had it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
There.
I'm sorry, my man. Here we go.
You're all right. Yeah. There it is. Yeah. So yeah, this is I don't remember which evidence number that is, but anyway, let's just move on. There's a lot in this. Like I said, there's a lot of photos in this one folder. I will turn this. Dink, dink, dink. Just like that. And this is a map drawn by Ryan Hilligus. I don't know if anybody wants to comment on that. Condom wrapper, corner of lot, first house on Jambo Creek. And then number 2, you wrote gravel pit across from Avery Road, 147.
Hey, that's the one I was talking about just earlier, wasn't I? Was I talking about it before we came on live, or did I mention that in our live tonight? But that's the one quarry that I'm always interested in, is the one straight across from Avery Road.
That's Michael's, or I think it's Michael's. I think
I
it's how
just
you
looked it
pronounce
up. I got the picture. Hold on, let me check.
Area where it looks as if a few fresh pushes made
Pushes.
up.
A few
Yeah,
fresh
backside.
pushes made up the back.
Yep.
What is it? A few fresh what?
Pushes. You know, like a front loaders push the gravel up.
Yep.
3 to 5 orange flags
okay, so
in that zone. Okay,
I thought Mitchell's. Sorry, Jeff. I thought Mitchell's was the one on Avery Road, like to the right if you're heading out.
I get so confused now that I get so
or is
confused.
it the one across the road? Is it the one across the road or the one on the same side as?
I'm looking. I just looked this up. I just did the property yesterday. I got the pics, and I can tell you in just a second.
Okay.
Anyway, that's an interesting map drawn there by Ryan. I'll turn this one as well. Dink, dink, dink. And I think these we're going to get into the search groups, search team A through E. There's 5 search groups. Got their names and I think, phone numbers and so forth. Nothing much to see there. Got to turn this one. More searchers, so forth.
So the quarry that was mentioned straight across from the Avery Road, across 147 in the town of Gibson, is owned by Northeast Asphalt Incorporated. It could have changed hands. This is the most recent one that I have. Likely it was probably owned by them at the time, Northeast Asphalt. I think the other one is the Mitchell Quarry, the one that is adjacent to Avery Road.
Mitchell, that's it.
Right.
Does anybody see that name I've got up there? I just now noticed that.
So, but the one that Ryan was talking about in his letter was the one that I just mentioned, Northeast Asphalt, across the street. That's where he's saying he saw push in or something up with the gravel. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Just to be clear.
Does that say Dennis Halbach or Donna?
Looks like Dennis. Dina?
It's badly written. It may be Dina. Yeah. D-E-N-N-A maybe. And I don't think that's Hallock. I think it's supposed to be Halbach.
It looks like Halbach would just mistake in the penmanship.
Yeah. Interesting.
Well, that's the whole address there, so I guess you could technically go and look the address.
I guess I could.
Okay, so that's interesting. That we have all these like handwritten things.
Yep. This is from the search groups. More names and addresses. Keep moving. Again, same thing. Tom and Shelley Jost Hilbert. More Jost. That must be a common name in that region. Jost or Jost.
Jost. We had this guy lived not too far, and he was he always had the worst smelling farm, so we called him. He was always composting, so we called him Compost Jost.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Yep. More the same. I'm just kind of glancing through these names. I've done it before, but it's been months since I really looked at these. But one of these is going to become interesting here when we get to it. Same thing. I don't think it's this one. Nope, this is more the same. Yeah. I think this is more the same. I'm not even going to zoom in on that one. Yeah, it's the same thing. All right. Okay, this is I guess a team led by Jason Jost. County Gravel Pit along, what the hell does that say?
Conveyor.
There you go. So these people walk along the conveyor and it gives their time in and out. Do I need to turn this one? I don't think I do. Looks like there's some notes there. And address and phone number. Okay, I'll turn this one. It's got some names listed, it looks like. This group leader was Sergeant Brad Seymour. In at 9, they stayed all day until 4:37 that evening. Had several troopers here listed. Does this have a date on it? It does not. The date up here at the top, this is 11/8. That's interesting.
I just checked that property, and now the tax map key website I'm on right now says that it's owned by David Schultz.
That one that's across the road?
No, that's the one adjacent to to the Avery Road, on the east side of the Avery Road, that quarry. But the problem is this, it could have changed hands since then. So I really have to go back and see who owned it in 2005, right? I know that this is out there. I know this information has been documented before. I'm just
right.
I'm not questioning the work that's been done on this before. I just couldn't remember the guy's name, and I thought it was Mitchell, like you.
Looks like another sign-in sheet. Looks like they got their time. I'm just going to scan through these because it looks like we've got a number of these. If anybody wants to, these are all available. There's nothing particularly interesting about these, but there's one coming up that is interesting, and we will look at it. Still going through. Had a pretty good group of people. All right, let's turn this one. We'll read it real quick. This is 7th and Road. I don't know if that means the 7th or 7th Road. I'm not really sure what that means. Tempo Ford, GL Blue, silver bottom. Second car in off of roadway / drag marks. White Cutlass. Down the hill right hand side. Personal items in back side of vehicle, approximately 14th something. and it shows the white. I guess they're just drawing a little map there showing where something is. So whatever the hell that is referring to, I don't really know. I don't remember. Another log of people. Yeah, same shit. There's a bunch of these. Nah. Yeah, same thing. Okay, we'll turn this one. There's more handwritten something here. Camera, cell phone, purse, clothing. Unearthed rolls ground. Some unearthed.
This looks familiar. I've seen this
Yeah.
before.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think what we were doing, and I think what we found is that this, or at least what we came up to is this is a list of things you're looking for as a searcher. These are
Well,
notes for the searcher because you're looking
Uh,
for stay
looking for
5
something.
to 10 foot apart. You're looking for tracks of a vehicle. License plate is here. You what's the other one? You're looking for a purse or a clothing or what is it? Unearthed or rolled ground. You know, just something disturbed. To me, that's the conclusion I came to. I would love to hear what else you guys think.
Well, everything else, yes, in what you're saying. That I don't know so much about the unearthed rolled ground. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, because that's
Maybe.
enough to put a flag on. Do you know what I mean? Like, oh, here's some. Remember how many things we saw in the quarry that was nothing, and they put a flag on it?
Oh my God, yes.
It's like, oh, there's some disturbed earth here. Put a flag.
Yeah,
And I think that's why this rolls together. And
some of those ashes had been there for God knows how long. Let me turn this one. I think this is another one. Cell phone, purse, clothing, dirt rolled up, disturbed, license plate SWH582, camera.
yeah, that's right,
Blue
Travis.
jeans with bottom. What's that?
Button.
I just wanted to address Travis's comment. He said that the state of Wisconsin crime lab found flesh and blood at the Michaels quarry. It was Michaels, not Mitchell's. Michaels quarry.
Michaels.
Which
yeah.
Which is east of Avery Road, also borders 147. And that's not the quarry that I believe Ryan was talking about in that letter. I believe the one Ryan was mentioning is across 147. It's like if you're leaving Avery's and you're driving down Avery Road, you don't turn left or right on 147. You cross 147 into the Farrell gas spot, and then behind there is the quarry that I believe that was mentioned in here. I'm glad you're going back to it. Yeah, I think it's in the bottom section of this letter.
Yeah, stay away from Salt Pond. Restage Coast Road. That caught a lot of people's attention. Watch for traps.
Yes, I just put because on the deer camp and Radant's property, he had a handful of hunters that were commonly coming and going and hunting on his property. One in particular was there 15 occasions from October 1st onwards. And one did set traps there that I know of. So they're really going to be letting people just wander around, are they, with traps set and dogs and what goes on with that?
That's a good question. You know, that was a question that I had, and I posted it in Discord about exactly how did Bushman's team end up where they found this disturbed earth. And O-Dog went and found the warrant, and he found where they had started and, you know, the general kind of direction that they moved in. And, you know, they got into, you know, went off of the Radant property onto the those people that own the property, Vanden Heuvel, I think their name is, or something like that. And I guess my question became, so the Verdant property is not marked going from one to the other, and it probably isn't, or it probably is, but the markers are probably buried, as most property markers are. And they don't get maintained. There's a marker, at the corners in the ground, and you never find them. So they end up, where they were from moving from the Verdant quarry, moving that direction. I don't know. I just found it strange that how they ended up where they were and found that spot.
You see that those notes that you're reading where it says restage Cuss Road. Now, if that's not
Yeah.
a red flag, I don't know what is. Like, what could be another explanation for that line right there?
I don't know, and I've tried to make sense of that, and I can't. There may be a way to do it, but I can't. I just can't.
Restage Cuss Road. What could that even mean? That's going to do my head in for the rest of the day, even though I have read it before. It's just going to kill me now.
Not my fault.
Restage Cuss Road, is that the question?
Yeah. What does it mean, Cal?
I always got told that, Lauren. I always got told that when I put this to Investigator T and he went through this, he laughed and said restage. And he goes, again, we're Australian police force, we have different language, but restage usually is a terminology for regrouping back at a certain area as a unit. So you restage Cuss Road. So you're restaging as the primary command center kind of thing when you're out. So always make Cuss Road the restaging. So you go back to that as the kind of, that's where you restage. You restage and come back. You swap notes. You talk about what you've seen. That's his language anyway. He always said that he didn't find it as the terminology as in restage, as in creating a crime scene. He says in their language it means regrouping and restaging back at a location as a unit.
Very well possible, because restage can be used in that terminology. Certainly possible. I don't think any of the rest of the.
You've also got like Josh Verdant coming down Cuss, using that dirt road to go through to Deer Camp. He was there on the 31st, 4/4/30. He also met one of his workers / hunter there as well that day, and they hung around until about 6:30 p.m. So they're right there. They're right at Cuss. I can't help but think if anything happened that day, and if that was some sort of evidence there at the end of Cuss that someone didn't see something. A lot of people use that track through the deer camp to either get to work or to go have a beer. I'm sure they use the burn barrel there for different animals that they've been hunting. They were shooting geese there, setting traps there. General boys, men's hangout as well. Like Josh kept beer there. He grabbed a couple of beers and then headed over to the quarry, then headed back. It's just, there's activity, there's people there. And they're there at around the same time, sort of. Teresa's phone is turned off or destroyed.
Well, yeah, but this time, I'm not entirely sure if this came from. I'm not sure. I don't know where this came from. It's evidence tag 8483, but I don't remember where this came from. And we got more sign in. What is this? Okay, this is some stuff that's been found. We looked through all this for a piece of cloth, shotgun shell, tracks 100 east of road, southeast corner. It's got various things. I think there's some more of these that have got some things written down that I'm sure turned out to be. They probably got flagged, but turned out to be, nothing of consequence. we've already heard about it and talked about it. How am I going to turn this? Yeah, looks like just more notes. More people in and out. Okay, we'll turn this one. It's upside down. This one's actually got some coordinates listed. I think somebody looked these up. I don't know if Sunshine Christina did or somebody did. Traxon Field. Carpeting off James Creek something old. Photo taken of track by pond by entrance. From inloader, track pictures, mud flap old. Yeah, there's more stuff there, kind of stuff they've written down, notes and stuff. Okay, we might be out of those. This is another one of those. I think it's like a grid map of some. It's grid map's probably wrong. It's spelled on the top. These grid fold ups, but I think
That's
this
what I
is
was
another.
just looking at today. I think it's a tax key map or a tax map key, where all those
Yeah.
numbers, you see those numbers associated. That's how you look up the tax and all the information about the owner.
That
So
property.
I believe that's what those are. Those are the property, and then
Yeah.
Hey, we never said this was all going to be super exciting, guys. We never said that there wasn't going to be some.
No, some of the stuff is just, it's just shit that got turned in, and it's in this big 2020 or 2100 pictures in this folder of photos that, Henbury got way back, God, years ago now. I mean, it's good to have, I guess, but, it is what it is. It's kind of mundane and boring, but we're going to get past these here pretty quickly. I'm going to zip through them a little bit quicker here. Manitowoc County, Wisconsin. I don't know what the hell kind of map that is, but whatever. That's another photo of it. This is interesting. And I think this. Well, I don't remember
Can you
what
go
this
back
is.
to the? Can you go back to the not collected photo, please? It's a request from Travis.
Not collected.
Couple back, you said.
You just have to tell me when to stop. Maybe you'll know which one it is.
Maybe that one. Yeah, not photographed,
not collected.
This is
Yeah.
the one. Let's take a little closer look at this.
Yeah, these are more coordinates. Golf tee. Let's see what it says here. Can't hardly read that.
Well, it says I got a bigger screen here. Golf tee, something.
No.
I don't know. The number 3 is plastic tag. Number 4 is plastic.
What about over here on the left though? To the left of 1,
Looks
2,
like
and 3.
Radisson or Radisson.
Yep.
It doesn't look like Redont.
No.
Radisson or something like that. And Sam, and then north of Avery.
Yep.
North of Avery.
Okay.
Number 2 is Leaf. I think number 2 is Leaf. 3 is plastic tag. 4 plastic. Old sock. Junk metal. Number 7 is old. Can you zoom in on 7 a little bit? Old something bottle. Old 2-liter bottle.
2-liter bottle. Yep.
Small piece of plastic. What does it say? Paper. Number 9. Paper. Anybody in chat? Can you read that? Number 9.
Gang.
This is something
garbage?
Garbage.
Garbage.
Paper garbage. Gamug. Paper. I don't know. If anybody out there has any idea.
That's about as tight as I can zoom in on it. I zoomed in on it. That's about as close as I can get.
Junk plastic glue. What is that? GAMBG? Gap MBG?
Yeah, I don't know.
Or it might be an A. Gamble paper. Anyway,
Bad writing. It's
number?
bad writing.
Old-
It's bad.
ooh,
It's
old
bad
China.
writing. Is all I can say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Old China.
Glue,
Old China
plastic
piece.
tip, old China piece of glass, old plastic glue. That's what they
Yeah.
found, and they didn't. But hey, this is what you're supposed to do. This is what the volunteers did, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, cops didn't do that. They weren't this good.
Well, they had a. I'm sure they had a GPS
I guess.
locator
Yeah,
with them.
I know.
Sure.
I'm just giving them a hard time.
I
It's
know.
nice
I
and
know.
detailed for a volunteer, I guess is what I should have said.
But not collected, not photographed. I mean, to me, it would. Whatever. At least they wrote down the coordinates, right? Okay. We've been through these. This one here with the orange or red on the map, I don't remember what this is. I don't know if this is some of the area that the dogs tracked in one way or the other. It's Cadabra and the scent dogs. I can't remember. Here's another larger. You could tell this is a large map. I mean, you can just look at it's on the floor there. So another one, and yet another one. I really like to have these detailed maps, man, especially in color. Okay, we got some hair. Wow. Property 7826. This is Teresa Halbach's journal. And remember, Jinx got a copy of their copy.
Oh well.
You haven't read that?
I'm sure I've seen parts, if I haven't seen it all.
You can read that down there. Some pretty terrible writing.
Let me see what we got here.
Uyghur Collective,
Uyghur.
7825.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, hold on. Teresa Halbach, W3637, County B, Hilbert, Uyghur. What does the bottom one say? Something journal. Personal journal.
No.
No what?
We've already done the journal. You're behind. I can't read that one. I don't know what that is.
Oh, because I'm sorry, I was lag. Yeah, financial records.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Oh,
I was looking at the wrong one. My bad.
You're fine. Can't read whatever the hell this is.
Let me see if we
Doesn't
can
matter.
zoom in on this
I think it's pretty irrelevant, whatever the hell it is.
The weed box?
Maybe. Looks like an old tin for sure.
Well, whatever you put in a tin. What do you put in a tin? You put some candies in there. You put some.
Just put some cash in and put it in your freezer, man. Come on.
There you go.
Okay.
That's from Ryan Hilligus. Okay, what's this one now? A tag, deer tag.
Gun deer resident.
Stephen Avery. He had a tag.
Damn it. I didn't mean to do that. Apologies. Skip back one.
You know, technically, you don't need to own a gun, and even if you're a felon and you can still get a deer tag because someone else is allowed to shoot a deer for you. I think it's really important to mention that. It's not normal. It's not rare. I mean, it's rare because most people want to shoot their own deer, but you are entitled to get a tag unless there's some sort of the DNR has banned you from hunting because of poaching. But even if you're not allowed to have a gun, you are still technically allowed to have a tag and let someone else shoot the deer for you.
This is mail for Avery. Let's flip this one right quick. Damn it. Ryan Hilgus. Letter from Teresa.
It should say Detective Ryan Hillikus.
Yes. untrained detective, but okay.
Untrained detective.
Yeah. I think these are all letters from Teresa to various people. I think that's what this batch is. Yep, a letter from Teresa. That's what all these are. I will not zoom in on the rest of them. Well, that one, that's to Kelly, her friend. Another one looks like some kind of postcard or letter, I'm sorry, or some kind of card. Micro cassette or micro something. This is almost impossible to read. It's kind of blurred. Camera tape of Avery property prior to release. So pretty sure that, yeah, this is one taken by Tyson. Yeah. Somebody
Prior
got
to
this.
release of scene. Prior to release of scene.
Yeah, that's correct. I don't remember if Henbury or I think Henbury got that ages ago.
So my computer screen is a lot bigger and I can read it better, but there's a lag, so I just gotta give me a second and I can read stuff.
This is from Reimer Queso. This is some kind of burnt material. It looks like various photographs of that same box. Let's see. Okay, more burnt material. And photographs of that box. Looks like another same thing. Burnt material. This is from burn barrel number 2, which was the Dassey barrel. And this is item 7964. 7960. And I don't, some kind of bone, clearly. Pretty white, considering. But they don't tell what it is. It's all, that's the tag. Maybe we'll get another shot of the tag. Nope. Unknown material suspected burnt bones south of Red House. Avery property. I'm looking for a date, and I don't see one. Oh well. All right, moving on. Another box of bone fragments. 1110, 79, 42. North end of something. North end of every property, north end. Bone fragments. And looks like we've got a number of special agents that have also joined in over here on the side. Okay, then 8677. Club car seat from Green Garage. Okay. So they sent the seat to. Okay, I guess they did. That's right, because it had probably dog mud on it, and they thought it was blood or something. Something in some garage, 8676. Glass slides. Is that what that is in there? You see that? Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, I can hear
Yes,
you.
sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Y'all were really quiet. And
I'm
this,
actually looking up to see who owns the property opposite Avery's, that little quarry in there, gravel pit.
I played a call the other night, and I'm just gonna throw this out there because this necklace. And Colburn's talking to, he's getting a hold of somebody at this vet hospital, and he's waiting for it to, he's waiting to talk to someone, and he's talking to somebody there in the office, and he said something to the effect of, "Yeah, found an entire necklace on top of the burn pile on that burn pile," which I thought was an interesting thing to say.
Well, I would think necklaces would have burned if it was in a fire. You know what I mean? That's why it's weird.
It is. Something Malibu. No, Main Green Garage. 2 letters. Whatever
Was
that
it
is.
a necklace or a bracelet? I thought he said bracelet in the call.
No,
It
he
ended
said
up
necklace.
being like the middle of a tire or something.
I don't know.
Like I thought he
Didn't
said
really-
an entire bracelet. It sounds like bracelet, but I think he meant like the middle of a tire. I could be wrong, but that's what I got from it.
And seat from Club Car. Oh boy, here's an old CD or DVD they found. Probably a CD back in that time.
Northwest of the red trailer by the tree line.
Yep. I wonder if they cleaned it up and tried to play it. Some kind of knife.
That's Earl's car, the yellow neon.
Robert. I don't know. Robert Powell. Maybe I recognize that name. Whatever the hell this is. Yep. Another knife.
Still not from Black Sheen. Yeah, on back of Earl's car as well.
Yep. I don't know what this is.
That's a footprint cast. I think that they took that down the back somewhere, maybe near, was it near the motorbikes or near the conveyor? Does it say where it was? Southwest entrance.
It's cut off. Maybe there's another photo. Nope, there's not.
I think it was taken down the, near the conveyor road part down that way. What's that?
Do not break seal. I don't know. This is another one that's cut off.
Malibu Green Garage.
Yep.
Debris.
Something debris.
Wow, it's just a collection of random junk.
Yep.
Yep.
This
Here
ain't.
we go. Where were they found?
I don't know.
They're definitely animal bones.
What the hell would they collect this for?
Can we read a debris pile? Oh, okay.
Okay, that's why. Gives us the coordinates. 8647. Is that same pile of bones? Another photo or part of it?
No, it looks slightly different.
gives the coordinates. Robert.
Yeah.
Robert. Debris pile contents. 8697.
I can look up those coordinates if you like.
If you want, you can. Sure.
Yeah, right. Let me have a look. Okay, so you call them out. North 44.
Yep, North 44, 1453.
Yep.
And then West 87, 4151.
Okay. Okay, I was just thinking too, talking about being north of the salvage yard. I remember a call came in. One of the officers called in. They were searching north, so they were over the road from 147. He called in some coordinates, and he said that he wanted Nancy Crowley to call him on his cell phone as soon as possible. Now, Nancy Crowley was like the head of the emergency services in the day.
Yep.
And so, of course, we never get to find out why he was calling her in particular. And then, of course, he wanted her to call direct to mobile. So you never really do hear what that was about. But I just found it very interesting that he's across the road, he's north. I've got the coordinates, and he's calling Nancy Crowley.
I hate that so much.
Yeah, me too. And she was
lost.
quite important in her field. Like, she's got a lot under her resume of jobs that she's done, head of emergency. It just makes me wonder why she was called. Like, you'd think if anything, she would have been called to Cuss Road.
So many of these, these conversations, it's 1021, give me a 1021. And we never get to hear what they talk about. And it could be relevant.
Mm-hmm.
So talking about, picking up shells, I don't, we could probably, damn it, sorry, I did it again. There we go. 8648. But we can only see just a little bit of the property tags. We'd have to look it up to actually find out where this came from. But shells, I mean, clearly they're shell casings just everywhere. I don't know what the hell this is. Some kind of white powder. Jeff, I think they're onto you, man. They found a jar here.
What's in the jar?
I don't know. It's white powder substance.
They're onto my games, huh? My secret white powder games.
Yep.
Looks like garlic powder to me.
It could be garlic salt too. Yep. And here's some more worthless junk. I'm guessing this is just shit that came out of a burn barrel. That would be my guess. Without, we don't have the full tag, so I can't read it. But what's this? We got a key.
Is it a foreign key? Is it a foreign key? Zoom in on that booger.
It's a copy.
What?
It's a copy of they had a copy made of the RAV4 Toyota key.
Come on, guys. Look at what you're looking at. Let's just look at what we're looking at here. They made a where's that? From Ace Hardware? Let's zoom in on that. Does that look like a brand new key, or does it look like maybe a key that's been around a little bit? It looks pretty new.
It does. Still got all the ridges.
Yeah, it looks really new. Why did they need to make a key? I guess I understand. Never mind.
This is on the 11th, but I don't know. Interesting.
That's the 11th. Can you check the metadata, please, and see what day this was photographed?
It says January 13th, 2006. 9:12 a.m.
Interesting. A lot of things were pictured that day, so it's not really that interesting, but it's kind of what I suspected.
And I think this is
master lock. Yeah, they look like master lock keys. padlock.
I think this is for one of the storage things that they had there at Calumet. I don't.
In fact, it's a good thing for us to do periodically, Jack, to just check that metadata just to see when things were not every photo, obviously.
Sure. Well, I was doing that, and then we got into all this other kind of most of it's irrelevant stuff. I can't say it's completely irrelevant. It tracks, the people coming and going and the searchers and all that kind of stuff. But DCI in the presence. Is that what this is? DCI in the. I can't read it.
Let me see if I can't see it on the big screen. DCI in the. I'll get it here. In the presence? In lab presets? It looks like the word presence, the last word. DCI in presence. 826. DCI in 826 presence. What is 826? Anybody know?
No idea.
Or it could be a 526. Can you zoom in on that DCI in part?
826 present.
Yeah,
Presence.
I think that's right.
I don't know what that means though.
Present. So that law enforcement officer was present.
Oh, 526 was there.
Mm.
Okay.
Oh, that would be my
simple.
guess.
That's pretty simple. It's usually the simple answer, guys. Wouldn't you agree? Usually.
What do you think it is? Out of a burn barrel?
It does look like it could have been in a burn barrel. But how can you tell? I mean, how can you tell and be like, that's from a burn barrel or that's from an open pit? I just don't think. Unless it's
Oh,
like.
wait. Look at this. It got brighter.
We got the tag. A lot of these photos I've noticed, they're not white balanced, and you can brighten them up without losing the integrity of the photo.
What burn barrel was that supposed to be? What number?
8702.
Who's 526? Because they're here again.
Is it a 5? Is it? I thought it was an 8.
Or 826. I'm sorry. Yeah, that looks more like an 8 on this one for sure.
I'll have a look what badge 826. I'll just write that down. But those coordinates, they're not adding up. Those earlier ones, they're just taking me out into whoop whoop land.
Oh boy.
Mm-hmm. Normally around that area, it starts off with a. It does start off with a 4-4. Yeah. For some reason, it's just, it's taking me pretty much to another state. It's like so far away.
Red shirt.
See how that's got burn barrel number 4? That's what I was hoping that we'd get on 8483, the last photo, but there was no barrel number. It just said burn barrel.
Yeah. Well, if somebody was trying to burn that, they did do a very damn good job. And burn barrel number 4, I think wasn't that Stevens?
I don't know, but if it had any blood or DNA on it, they would have used it.
Yeah, no doubt. Looks like some
chicken
kind
of. 826 there.
Come on, that's the chicken bone, yeah.
DCI.
I don't think I have any bone. I don't have any joints in my body that are that small. Like 2 joints on the end, unless it's my fingers are way bigger, are way smaller than that, and my legs are quite a bit bigger than that. So I'm gonna say suspected human.
It says not suspected human.
Oh, not.
You got turkey drumsticks for legs, Jeff.
And calf. Right here it says Hawkins 826.
Oh, right, because I'm looking here and I've got 825 and jump straight to an 827, 828, and no 826. And so it's Hawkins, was it?
That's what it says.
fantastic. Fill in the blanks. Fill in your sheet. I'm saying chicken bone. I'm not going to bet the farm on it, but
I'm with you. I never worked at KFC, but that's kind of what it looked like to me.
but you eating enough of them, though, huh?
I really like their chicken pot pie.
I thought you were going to say
Good.
coleslaw.
Yeah, actually, I like their coleslaw too, but I
Their
really like
coleslaw and their what is it, biscuits? There you go.
Well, we don't
Yeah.
get biscuits here or any pie, anything fancy like that. What's going on?
You guys got the Zen,
the
you got the new
their
new age stuff.
KFC chicken pot pie is the bomb. It's damn good.
Oh God, I'm jealous. It's my chicken pot pie. And even biscuit, that sounds great. I can't, no matter how many times I type in this number, it's not taking me anywhere near the location of
Can you
anywhere.
send that to me so I can try?
Yes, I can.
Bad coordinates, I bet you, but go ahead.
Yeah, I'll send it to you, Jeff. You give it a go.
Crime Lab Rhymer. One bag contained fiber from item 7944. I can't see. Looks like a bag within a bag there. So,
Well,
moving
finished
on.
our poll here. I ran that poll for quite a while, and it was going. And so, in your opinion, how many people could have been involved? And so, we have 42% say that it's more than 3 people. We have 31% of the people think that it could be 3 people, and 21% thinks it's 2 people, and only 5% believe one person could have done this cover up alone.
Yeah,
only 5%.
I think you need at least 3 people for all the working parts to make it.
I like a 2-man crew though, Jack. I'm sorry, I gotta go with the 2-man.
2-man crew could work.
3's a crowd, man. 3's a crowd when we're talking about this stuff,
Yeah, yeah. Generally, out of 3, one's going to squeal.
That's right. Because then you only have one person to worry about. If you have to, you don't know if they're conspiring behind you to flip on you, right? Like the third wheel. That's why they call it the third wheel, huh? It's
That's right.
difficult.
Bag containing, I don't know, biological material from item 7924. More material from Eisenberg from 7944.
You got Reimer's number 832. Calf.
Yep, Reimer's 832. That's his badge number. Yep. Well, here's some non-biological material from 7924.
I'm talking away on mute. Don't you love that?
I've done it many times.
Yeah. And I just solved the case, but I'm not going to repeat myself.
Hey, come on.
It took too long.
Probably more the same. Looks like.
How many we got left in this album, Jack?
We have a lot.
This subsection.
Oh, I don't know about this subsection. Just a second here. I don't even know where the hell we're at. Let's see. This is number 25, 28. Just a second here.
Oh, that one's signed by Eisenberg. That's interesting, this picture. We got to flip it around, though, because the tag is upside down.
Here, let me flip it and you all can look
at
that
that'd be
while
nice
I look
before
this
you go. Yeah. Excellent.
And I'll go. Yeah.
Dr. Leisenberg. One bag containing fabric from item 7924. Do we know what 7924 is?
I had a list of items and their numbers, but I don't know what I've labeled them in my computer. You'd think it would be under item numbers, but of course it's not. It'd be under something really silly that only I would remember, but then not.
All I can tell you is just looking from here on in the folder here, there's still a bunch more of these pieces of evidence. There's a lot of them, so we can stop or continue, whatever you want to do. We can pick this up next time if you want. We got started a little bit late on photos, so.
Yeah, we didn't get that much, but we got some in, and that's the important part, I think, to just keep chipping away at this when we got time, just keep
Right.
going, because I've found some things that are really interesting, and it's jarred me down new research avenues directly and indirectly because of us looking at these photos. So it's really helpful. Like it has really opened my eyes to a lot of things. So I'm not going to stop, and I hope everybody out there isn't
No.
going to stop either. I know, Jack, you're not going to stop, but I know Cap's not
No.
going to stop. Yeah,
No, I'm not going to stop until I'm forced to stop.
absolutely. Well, yeah, I guess let's pick up next time on the
Okay.
photos, and
I'll make a note of where we're at.
yeah, that'd be nice. Be a little bookmark Lisenberg, see where she's at next time. And look at us, 3-man crew, 3-person crew left over.
Yeah.
The hardcore ones always stay to the end. So thank
well,
you
we-
guys out there
we-
that are still watching.
We killed poor Brian and Kel. We killed them. They
They couldn't take it anymore. They had to tap
They had
out.
to go. They had to tap out. Stop.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm trying to get these photos, and actually, I created a folder just for case photos, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 7 separate folders they're all from different parts, and I'm not done yet. I still have others to add that because my other computer, I really kind of knew where everything was, so I just left it there. This makes
Yeah.
it so much easier, man. Oh my God, it's so much easier.
Yeah, it sounds like you're having a nice go at it with the new computer. I love when you get it. I mean, I got my
Trying
new
to
computer
organize
a couple
these
years
better.
ago. It changed my life, man. Changed my life.
I'm just trying to organize better because there's so much information, and to make it just
Yeah,
easier
and
to
I-
get to, especially the things that
And there's
like this.
probably a ton of people asking you for stuff all the time, Jack. I feel sorry for you, man. I'm sorry. I ask
it
you
just
all the
seems
time,
to
too.
No, it's fine. It just seems to run in batches. I may go for a couple of days and nobody asks me for anything, but then I'll get some days just like I get asked
Overwhelmed.
quite a bit, and it's fine. I don't, if I can get it, man, I'll me, I'll do it.
Absolutely.
Don't mind at all.
Well, that's why it's so nice to have you here, helping out with the pictures and checking stuff out. And it's like, in order for the machine to run well, you have to have the historian and the documentarian, the people that know how to find. I used to think that like librarians and stuff, like, what do they really do? They just hold the books and keep. No, they're the ones that help you find it, like that.
Keep the train running on track.
That's
on the
right.
tracks.
So that's the efficiency. And yeah, anybody could be like, yeah, we got a bunch of books. Good luck. Go find it. You know what I mean? It is the custodians of the records that play an important role in this. And so got to give heads up to those people like you, Jack, too, that are a records custodian.
I wish yours could stay up this late, because that guy, man, he's got a mind like a steel trap too. I can tell you right now, that guy has got it.
Excellent. Yeah, we got to talk more about yours. Absolutely. So
Well,
yeah,
he's working a lot, so he can't do these extracurricular things. That's late as hell for him. So.
Well, it's late as hell for a lot of people, I think. So, anything to be, to wrap up, guys? Kath, do you got anything to add?
No, not really.
No.
I don't know. I'm still trying to find that cohort in the background. So, but yeah, it's taking me to Whoop Whoop Land, so I'll give up on that.
Yeah, and one thing I do want to add, if you guys are still listening out there, if you listen to this later, after it's been live, I mentioned it earlier that we're trying to gear up to kind of look at that live that we did like a year ago about the suspects, and I think to take a closer look, because I think we had like 10 or more on the list, and I think to take 2 or 3 suspects in one sitting and kind of go a little deeper into it if we can. So that's one area that
Yeah,
we
yeah.
hope to be digging into in the next couple of weeks. Like every time that I think that we're ready to present something, we go, oh, but wait, we got to figure this part out first. We don't want to go unprepared. So I guess it's hard because you're always going to think that there's another piece, but it's hard to present stuff because you want to get it right, and you don't want to get out over your skis, I guess, as they say.
Yeah, and a lot of people weren't looked at either, and I'm sort of like leaning more towards family, friend, boyfriend, ex-boyfriends, things like that. I'd like to just delve into them a little bit, even though we haven't got much on them, but it just seems like this is personal. But is it personal towards Stephen, or is it personal towards Teresa?
It's hard to know. These are the questions. These are the questions, aren't they?
But just the way that she was murdered and disposed of, I take that personally. I see that as a personal thing more so than if it was a hustle shot gone wrong or a hustle shot attack, opportunity kill. Normally in those situations, people don't go to those lengths to dispose of a body. It's usually roadside throwaway or a shallow grave at best, and then they're out of there. But they've really gone to a lot of effort to get rid of her completely.
Oh, dismemberment, shooting, burning.
Yeah, it's definitely an overkill. And so you've got to ask yourself what sort of person is prepared to do that, because you're spending a lot of time with this body as well. Those things all take time, as you know. And then, just to leave her car, the car obviously was left because they didn't think they were going to get caught because they'd done such a great job with getting rid of all of the body.
I've been looking into this other case that I'm aware of that took place in Fond du Lac County, which is next to Calumet County. And that's where I'm from. And so this case involves 2 guys and actually 3 people that burned this woman, the girlfriend. Like, basically what happened is the girlfriend threw her boyfriend's heroin down the toilet and he snapped and killed her, and they burned her in a burn barrel. But here's the thing. It was like 2 months later. They had her frozen for a while. They had, you know what I mean? It didn't have, in this case with Teresa, it was, she died. It's like she hit the ground and they picked her up and they burned her. It was like, that's what makes me think sometimes it happened so quick. It's so fast for that for someone to get away with that. It just seems to me like it seems a little planned to me. But hey, I've been wrong a lot before, guys. So don't take my word for it.
That's so creepy. That case you were just talking about. They froze her, and then they burned her 2 months later in a burn barrel. Oh my god!
And then they took those remains and they drilled holes in Lake Winnebago, which is the lake between Calumet and Fond du Lac County. And in a fishing hole, they put her remains in through the fishing hole. But the cops got on. Oh, what happened is the guy that murdered her started talking. He told his friend, and his friend busted him out. Yeah.
Oh no.
So
which is another thing in this case. No one's ever come forward to say, I know who's done it. Like,
exactly.
Someone told me once, that they were involved. Nothing. Dead, silent. All these years.
And so what they did is they found bones or human remains in the burn barrel. And so this is the case that I'm going to take a little deeper dive into and see if we can't find something that is helpful in our own understanding of, and I looked at it and I haven't done an exact, I didn't check the weight and height, but this woman was another woman from Wisconsin who was similar. I mean, she was not overweight or extra skinny. She was a normal kind of petite girl like Teresa Halbach. So that's my point, is that it's kind of similar. and it's one of the areas I plan to look into. I'm not promising that I'm going to have anything for you guys soon, but it is something that I might, because if we could get pictures of another case like you found, Kath, of another
Brian
case
Lange's
burn, yeah, there you
burnt
go.
in a 55-gallon drum. Yep.
We can
Easy to
better
control the
understand it.
scene as well. Like if you're burning a body in a barrel, it's so easy to control the scene. So once the body's down to ashes or fragments, excuse me, you can then go and put it in the piles, I guess, that were found at Mishicot Gravel. Would make sense that it was just tipped out from a barrel here and there,
Yeah, I can
Yep.
see that.
rather than, dig out a pit. I think if you're burning someone in a pit, it's going to take a lot longer, and you can't really control the heat as well.
You can't. I mean, the burn barrel, and that's why everybody uses them to burn their garbage, because they're so good. It's so cheap and effective. It's because it's a radiant heat. The heat bounces back in from the metal. I've seen those things go cherry red.
So have I. You
That
put
you're
a
like,
you could get a leaf blower if you wanted to put little bellows on that thing. You could really turn that thing into a turbo barrel.
He wasn't
know what
cut
I
up either. He was just put in whole, and then they stoked him down with a shovel. Crazy.
Before we go, I will tell you guys that I got like a fourth request from somebody that has asked me if we've ever looked into any other cases that Ken Kratz prosecuted, felony cases, and I haven't. But I mean, there's again with anything like this, if we were to try to find a case that he's prosecuted a bad one, and then start requesting court documents and so forth, there's a cost associated with that. And I'm not saying it's not undoable, we can't do it, just as a comparison to see how he behaved there versus how he behaved here. Might be a nice case study, but I don't know. Maybe.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it is.
I have
did
looked into
see-
a couple of Sherry Cole Haynes before, and I had read that she had done a one or two before of a person who had a cut on their hand.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I
But,
just want to
that's
add one thing about that other case that I saw from Fond du Lac County, and that was when they talked to the prosecutor, the reporters asked him about the case. He said, "I'm only going to say anything that is in the complaint. Otherwise, it would be inappropriate." And I just thought that was a little refreshing.
Good for him.
Mm.
What it's supposed to be.
That's how it's supposed to be.
Yeah, you don't have a rated R press conference at 2:00 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Thought this podcast was over. Don't get me started again. Oh,
Anyway.
that guy. Well, we are over the 3-hour mark, guys, and it's been great having you. You guys are true soldiers to wait to go to the end. I've been enjoying every minute of it, even though I'm kind of disabled here on my phone, and it's not the best way for me to deliver. But thanks again for joining. Appreciate you guys, Kath and Jack and Kel and Brian and everybody else in chat and people that have joined along with us. So for Kath and Jack, this is Jeff Jones saying this has been Live After Discussing a Murder.
Thanks, everyone. See you later.
Good night. Good night.